All right, I think we're live. So welcome everyone to another Matt Maran Motoring live stream here on the Matt Maran Motoring YouTube channel. Hope you're all having a great weekend. Thanks so much for tuning in here and hanging out on a Sunday night. So like all the other live streams, are going to go for about 2 hours or so. I'll give priority answering to anyone who has a super chat or a super thanks, as well as anyone who's a member there with the green usernames. They always get that priority answering. If you'd also like that, there's always a link in the description, as well as join buttons elsewhere here on YouTube to join the channel and get that priority answering. But anyway, so I see we have Brian, Kyle, Danny, Cars, and Goth Rocker here that all have joined in so far. Thanks so much for joining in, everyone. I see Anthony as well. And I hope everyone's doing good. I see everyone saying hello here. And Cars says, time for some more great discussions. I agree. I'm looking forward to it. And in the meantime, we'll wait for everyone to join in. My interesting car spot that I just saw this evening was a first generation Honda Civic. I haven't seen one of those in years, and it was a little rusty looking, but I mean, they basically all are, I think, at this point, unless they're in a museum. But you know, I think they were like mid 70s when that first gen Civic came out, and just was like, whoa, like so cool to see one of those. And so yeah, that was my cool spot. I'm curious if you guys saw any cool stuff during the course of the week here. I saw a couple other things, but I can never remember unless it's something really notable. But that was really out of the ordinary with that Civic. And let me see also some more people saying hello. And Danny's asking thoughts on an AW11 supercharged MR2. I'm foggy on the generation names for those vehicles, so I'm not sure which time period you're talking about there, but supercharged MR2s seem like a great idea to me. I really liked the regular MR2. It just was kind of slow for the most recent generation here, in my opinion, and a supercharger would probably really fix that. It says the first gen MR2 was supercharged. Gotcha. Okay, so you're going way back. I have never driven one of those, never sat in one. I have zero experience with them. What I can say is they seem really cool. I always liked the styling. I always thought it was kind of a revolutionary thing they did, especially for that first generation. I just know nothing about them, unfortunately. I'd love to review one someday. But yeah, I know nothing about them. So unfortunately, I can't give you any good thoughts on it, aside from I just think they're really cool and I admire them for sure. And let me see. I see more people joining in here. Good Stick, Linda, Freight, Jordan, and Cam Jam. Thanks for joining in, everyone. And I see Freight says, keep up the great content, Matt. You are top in your field with detailed video quality and passion. Chris, I really appreciate that, Chris. And hope you're doing well there in Texas this weekend. And it's I really appreciate that. I've been getting a lot of really kind comments recently, and it feels really nice, and people really seem to appreciate the info in the videos, and whether it's the unbiased nature of some of the more critical ones recently or whatever. It's definitely is nice that the videos are helping people find cars they love, and if nothing else, and entertaining people a little bit. So I appreciate the kind comments there. Jordan says, hey Matt, Chad and I both made it. Awesome. Thanks for joining in, guys. Hope you're both doing well. And Good Sick says, thoughts on Waymo. I mean, I don't know. I know they've been having some issues with their cars, bumping into each other, or having alarms going off in the middle of the night or whatever. But I didn't hear any new stuff aside from that. But I mean, yeah, just self-driving stuff in general is a tough road. I think maybe they'll get there eventually, with all these different companies. But I think I've mentioned in the past live streams, it just comes down to liability. That's kind of the big question to me, is who's going to, assume liability for these things whenever they go wrong. So that's really the biggest question to me. They'll figure out the technical stuff eventually, and with AI and stuff, I'm sure maybe they'll get a little bit better predicting the crazy humans that are out there on the roads. But we will see, who cracks this stuff first, whether it's Tesla with a robotaxi. Cruise is also now saying they're going to, I think, put out some stuff by next year. And I'm sure Waymo is trying to, beat everyone to the punch as well if they can, or at least keep up. But I don't have any other intelligent thoughts on it outside of that, really. And Goth Rocker says, Matt, what did Beth think of the new Nautilus? I know she likes German luxury brands, but as you know, I like Lincoln and the direction they're going starting in 2017 with the Continental. So that week that I had the Nautilus, it's been a while because I'm so backlogged that I drove that thing back in, I think it was June, maybe even May. So I believe we had a different vehicle as well that week. We've been doubled up on press cars most of the year here, but I think there was something else that week that we were using as the baby hauler because I never installed the car seat in the Nautilus. So I don't think she actually ever even checked it out. She wanted to, and I was like, "Oh, you got to check it out," but I don't think she ever actually like got around to it during the week, to be honest. But I was ranting and raving about it, and yeah, but there was something else we had that week that we just put the car seat in that, and that was it. But yeah, I mean, she really likes the look of it and stuff. I think she's a little bit burned by Ford, though, personally. I mean, obviously we have a Mach-E, but her Fiesta really burned her on something that, I don't know, for some reason the Mach-E is kind of like a separate thing in her mind. As far as the Mustang thing, there's not really any Ford badges on it, even though there's Ford switchgear and stuff. For her, it was enough of a difference. But for some reason, the Lincoln stuff sometimes kind of gives her Ford vibes still a little bit. But this thing's such a radical departure. I don't think she'd be opposed to it. I think the thing with Nautilus, as far as like, if we were to consider it as a vehicle for us, it's just a little big for, what we need. But she really liked the look of it, and yeah, the wheels and stuff she thought were really cool. So she admired it, but I don't think she actually I don't think she even rode in it once. Because again, if there's no car seat in it, then typically me and her don't go out on our own a whole lot. So didn't have a chance to really check it out, unfortunately. But Linda, thank you so much for a very kind super chat here. She says, I'm going on 24 months as a member. It's a bargain. So here's a super chat. Any plans for Labor Day? My family's coming and my daughter will drive my Mustang as she is flying in. That's awesome. And thanks for being a member for almost 2 years now. I really appreciate the support, Linda. It means a lot. And as far as plans for Labor Day, there's my extended family on my mom's side. They always have a family reunion with extended family. So we'll probably do that. There's also sometimes like another little cookout or something like that we sometimes do. So, just probably, family kind of stuff like that. Nothing crazy, just kind of low key and chill. But hope you have a fun Labor Day as well here coming up. And yeah, great that the family's coming in. That'll be awesome. And I hope your daughter enjoys driving the Mustang there. That's very kind of you to let family members drive your cars as well. And sometimes brave, depending on your family members. But hope it all goes well, and have a great Labor Day, Linda. Thanks again. And Chad, thanks so much for rejoining the club here. I really appreciate it. I will keep an eye out for your chats there, as well as Jordan's here as well. But thanks again for rejoining. And let me see now, getting back, Kyle says, I still get my car info Fridays during the weekly update. I don't even research anything before then. That's cool. I'm glad that it's helpful for you. That's kind of, I mean, I've been kind of going back and forth about the weekly updates still for a while, as far as their usefulness, especially whenever the views are lower. Sometimes the views are, still okay, but they have certainly gone down a little bit here this year. And yeah, it's kind of, I'm kind of, the more and more that I do them, the more I'm questioning personally the value. I'm really, that's great feedback that they are valuable to you and that you kind of have that weekly rundown. And I know a lot of people really love them still, but I just feel like from a mass appeal standpoint, the appeal is kind of limited. I think people that are excited about car news probably are, getting some updates on, their favorite social media platform, or just on YouTube with people that do daily videos and things like that. And, people that don't follow that stuff. I mean, again, there's a small niche of people that are fine waiting until Friday, and they're not in a hurry, and they're just busy, and they just have other things to worry about, and they just kind of would rather have that distilled thing, once a week. But I feel like a lot of people that are that casual probably don't care enough to actually click on the video, generally speaking as well. So it's, I don't know. I still feel like the weekly updates are kind of, I don't know. They're kind of a tough thing to justify these days. I mean, the views again are certainly decent, and I enjoy following car news myself and, sharing my thoughts on those things. But it's still the one thing that I'm still kind of questioning. And as you know, Kyle, I've been going back and forth for years about, do I keep doing them? Do I stop? And, I know so many of you really love them, so I keep doing it for that reason, especially. But, especially when the views get lower, it's like, if the views go much lower than they are currently, it's probably honestly a waste of my time. As much as, again, I love doing it. I love doing it for you guys, just from a, my time being limited, and the best use of that. If I could, it takes 2 days basically to do a weekly update. If I could spend those 2 days editing a car review, which is also how long it takes me to film and edit a car review, everything's a 2-day project. if I could do an extra car review every week and those continue to get views versus the weekly updates that no one watches after the first week, it's probably a better use of my time to put out an extra car review. And especially being so doubled up on cars and having so many opportunities to film stuff, going to 3 car reviews a week and no weekly update is probably the smarter way to go about things. I've also had a sneaking suspicion recently that the weekly updates are kind of hurting the algorithm for me in this channel, because I think you look at, like, generally it seems like the idea with the algorithm is to get people on a roll with your videos of repeat viewers, keep giving people more and more what they like. And I think obviously I only have so much control over that because I'm doing new cars all the time and I don't have a ton of control over exactly what cars I'm filming. So it's really hard to be like, hey, this person really liked the V8 Miata video, now let me go film every other V8 Miata in existence. Like, it's not that easy, So that's one of those things where I can only do such a good job at that, before I kind of reach the limit there. But with the weekly updates, it's kind of a completely different type of video. And some people have, suggested spinning it off to a separate channel. But I really feel like, from an algorithm standpoint, I'm best suited focusing 100% on either car reviews or 100% on weekly updates and car news. Both could be full-time jobs, absolutely, but I don't have enough manpower to do 2 full-time jobs. And to do car news well, I really should be doing it on a daily basis, or at least whenever there's a notable story, and do multiple videos a week just on car news. But that would be a job in and of itself. And then doing car reviews, again, is another job as well. So that's kind of the tough thing to justify, because instead it's like, okay, the algorithm sees, okay, this person doesn't like the news videos, but it's not smart enough to differentiate a news video from a car review. So it's like, oh, wow, well, this person really liked the 2 car reviews they posted, but then, this next car review, which is actually a weekly update, they didn't like. So maybe we shouldn't recommend in the next video. And it just kind of continues to hurt the algorithm. I think that kind of makes the most sense as far as why the channel has been kind of limited, because it's like I get you on a roll for 1 or 2 car reviews and it's like, oh wait, never mind, they don't like news, and then the algorithm gets the wrong idea. And likewise, people that only watch the news videos, they say, oh sweet, a car news video, great, and then it's like, oh well, here, watch these car reviews, and they're like, nah, I'm not into those cars, and then that sinks the algorithm for those videos. And so I think that everything's kind of been capped a little bit because the algorithm doesn't know what to do. And if it was just, again, a separate channel for the car news, that would be, a little bit better. But I also, like, it's tough because then I'd have to start a second channel and forego monetization for however long it takes, especially doing only 1 car review or 1 weekly update a week, 1 video every week, trying to build enough watch time to then monetize that channel and get people to subscribe to the new channel and carry over. It's a whole thing that would cost me, a bunch of money in the meantime, not making money on those weekly updates while they're on a new channel. So it's a whole thing. Sorry for the sidetrack there, but that's still my debate with the weekly updates, and I'd welcome your feedback for those as well. I see Shane also suggesting that just do a second channel for news. Yeah, it's just, again, you don't get monetization until you get a certain amount of watch hours, which would probably take a little bit. So that's kind of the only snafu there. It could be a potential, like, temporary hit that I take, and maybe it'll pay off in the long run. And that's kind of one thing I'm debating. And I've been researching more and more about doing a second channel and stuff. So that is something I may announce here at the end of the year, maybe, and do something next year, starting in January or something. We'll see. Let me see. So we got 1 spammer here, but thankfully it's not Richard Simmons this week. Anyway, Jorge, thank you so much for a super chat. I really appreciate it. I don't see any comment attached, but I will keep an eye out if you have any comments. And of course, you're a member as well. So if you have any other things you'd like to add, please do. But if nothing else, thank you very much for the very kind super chat. Also, Dom, thanks so much for being a member for 26 months. It says, hey, man, good to see you. It sucks that you don't get more views on your weeklies. They're really good. I appreciate that, Dom. And thanks so much for being one of the longest supporters here as far as members go on the channel. I really appreciate it, Dom. Hope you're doing well, too. Chad, thank you for a super chat as well. He says, do you think that BYD's new luxury brand has any viability in the U.S.? Their off-roader looks interesting. I don't really follow Chinese car news, honestly, at all. So I couldn't even tell you what BYD's new luxury brand is even called. So that's how out of the loop I am. So unfortunately, again, I can't give you an intelligent answer there. I think BYD, obviously, has got a very strong momentum going right now. They have a lot of money. They're doing really impressive things. And so, if anyone's going to be starting a new luxury brand, I think they'll have a lot of strength anywhere in the world and in the US if they are allowed to come in, or if they really want to, just pay the tariff and, mark it up 100% or whatever, or take a hit or one combination of the two, to bring them here. I mean, they could, and again, we will see in November what happens, as far as whether, BYD is allowed to come in, like Trump's been talking about supposedly, or if we continue to, keep the Chinese out and, just kind of double down on the American stuff here. We'll see what happens, but yeah, I'm sure it's going to be a very solid brand wherever they decide to put it out, and especially countries that have the disposable cash for luxury vehicles. I think it'll probably do very well. At least, among people that want EVs, which again is still, a limited market, but I think is, growing, every day. But thank you again, Chad, so much for the super chat as well. And your 10th super chat as well, YouTube's telling me. So that's awesome. And thanks again for the support. Let me see. So someone says Richard Simmons, thankfully he's not here. But let me see, getting back to other member questions. So Dylan says, saw an older Cavalier earlier this week, as well as an Omni. Pretty neat. Nice. I see Cavaliers still every once in a while, still kicking, and it's always impressive and cool to see them. I actually, a couple of weeks ago, saw, I don't remember the generation, but I believe it's the first gen Cavalier, because there's only two kind of, right? I guess technically three, but like that first gen with this, squared off headlights and stuff. I saw one of those. It was actually in pretty good shape, just cruising down the road, just some old guy driving it, like it's just his regular car, I was like, man, it's very impressive, especially these days with, again, these massive vehicles like we've talked about in past live streams. Everything is huge on the road. Even regular normal vehicles are enormous compared to stuff from 20 or 30 years ago, and so it's takes some bravery to drive an old car these days. And Cam Jump says, officially a member for 1 year, 1 month, and 1 day. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Cam, for the support. I really appreciate it. And Dorian says, Derrick's fan, can you find out about the MX-5 looking car that supposedly has a Wankel motor? That's the first that I'm hearing about that. I guess was there something spied, maybe in Japan or something? You've got me interested. That sounds great. I think the thing, though, to keep in mind is MX-5, they are very protective of that car exactly the way that it is and the heritage that it has. So I would never expect a Wankel to ever go into an MX-5 or something badged as that. If anything, what I would suspect is that if they are, if there is something looking like a Miata running around with a Wankel motor, supposedly, then I would say that that's going to be a prototype test mule, just rolling chassis to hook up stuff and test stuff for a final vehicle. So that's my idea is, it's a test bed for an RX-7, RX-9, whatever you want to call it. Something like that. That's cool though. I mean, really the way that I was expecting, if they ever did bring back rotary for a sports car, I was expecting it to be the same kind of setup we see in the MX-30 plug-in hybrid, where the rotary is a range extender for the EV. That's really, I think, what they see as the future for the rotaries at Mazda. But, never say never, I guess. We will see. I mean, Mazda, somehow managed to approve a big inline 6 turbocharged engine with their limited resources. And, again, it's a motor that even Toyota couldn't be bothered to build. They had to go to BMW for the Supra, and yet Mazda's doing it on their own. So I wouldn't put it past Mazda, just because it seems like anything's possible right now at Mazda. But to me, that still seems a bridge a little too far to just have an old-fashioned rotary, unless they found some real technological breakthrough and they want that to be the halo car for that tech. But I mean, rotaries just are not fuel efficient. They're compact, and that's why they make sense in a range extender kind of situation. But I can't see them doing some type of actual purely gas rotary thing. I'd love to see it. I mean, that would be amazing, and I would respect the heck out of them for it. But I can't buy that that's actually what's going to happen. But we'll see, and I'll have to look into that. Thanks for the heads up on that, Tori, and I'll have to check that out. Maybe I'll mention it in the weekly update if there's something legit there that's worth looking into. And Goth Rocker says, still, thanks for still doing the weekly news and enjoyed the in-depth Nautilus review this week. I appreciate that, Rich. Hope you're doing well. And thanks for stopping by too. Good Stick says, one of my friends got a 2007 Mazda MX-5 in the UK, got it for 2,000 pounds and it was in good condition. It's the NC generation. Nice. I'd like to revisit the NCs because I reviewed one. It was the retractable hardtop one. At this point, it was probably, I don't know, 11 years ago or something. I drove it. And at the time, it just seemed kind of underwhelming. Like the BRZ had a more exciting motor and was more dynamic. And I just didn't appreciate the NC back then when it was, pretty much still new. That was the current generation at the time. And it just kind of felt a little underwhelming. But these days, I think I'd probably have a new appreciation for them. I'd really like to revisit it. And I'm keeping my eye out. If there's one that, pops up, I'd be happy to review another one at some point down the road. But yeah, I think they're pretty cool. And I think they're super cheap. I think you can get them. They're under like $7,500 here in the States, which I'm not sure that, again, the conversion with 2,000 pounds there in the UK, but I mean, they're cheap. And if you just want a fun little car and you don't need to win every drag race, NC Miata is probably one of the best sports car values out there, alongside, like I said, the Solstice and the Saturn Sky earlier this year. Fantastic bargains as well here in the States, which I guess would be the Opel and Vauxhalls over there. I don't remember, what the actual names were for them, but I know Opel and Vauxhall got a version in the UK. But anyway, lots of fun little roadsters there for pretty cheap money currently. Linda says Beth is a car girl, which is so cool. Yeah, she's not like super into performance or anything like that, but she likes the luxury stuff, and the fact that she's just appreciating them. And she's learned a lot in the past 10 years from being with me here, so she's picked up a lot, and she definitely appreciates certain cars for sure. But Jorge says, my buddy just got a 911 GTS. That's awesome. Congrats to your friend. Overall, a good looking car, but it's the first time I saw this and I hope it dies. His black wheels are painted to look like they have brake dust all over them. Yuck. Interesting. So is it like a matte black wheel, a matte finish? Is that kind of why? Yeah, I don't know. Matte paint finishes just do not. I'm not super into them. I've never been into them. They're even just tonight. I saw a new, recent model year Escalade with a flat gray matte like wrap on it. And I don't know. I mean, again, everyone likes something different. It's subjective. So who am I to judge? But to me, it just looked like it was 10 years old because it just looked, kind of just like run down with a matte gray wrap on it. And I don't know, to me, it just didn't look super cool. I mean, on some cars, I'd say a matte gray wrap works better than others, but on a giant Escalade where it's just this sea of just matte gray, I don't know. Didn't do it for me. But hopefully the owner of it was enjoying it. But let me see. Jordan says, Hyundai and Kia are doing pretty well here in the U.S. Why is Ford so far behind on securing faithful customers? Thin lineup, inconsistent plan layouts. I think Ford certainly does have, a decent bit of, loyal fans. I think that like the Mustang move is definitely driving some people away, just with the prices getting so high. But then you're having some new people coming to the Mustang brand because Dodge won't sell you a V8 anymore, and neither will Chevy, as far as, sports cars goes. So you go to Ford because they're the last man standing. So, I think that Ford's going to be okay. I think that there's some other stuff where they've left people behind just by their choices of thin lineup, I guess you could say. I mean, they have plenty of vehicles in the lineup. It's just they walked away from the car segment. They walked away from affordable vehicles really outside of Maverick. And so you're going to lose people, all those people that loved Ford Fusions and drove them like yourself. But, a lot of people that love Fusions, I thought it was a great vehicle. And I mean, there's a ton of them on the road, in the past decade here. And then, they're all slowly going away little by little. But, there was equity there with the Fusion name. And they were solid cars. I always thought the Fusions were great. Fiestas had their issues, but also had, a following, especially the STs and stuff. Focus. I mean, Focus has been a staple for decades, and they just walked away from all of that, just dropped it all and said, meh, we don't need it. We'll go chase the trucks. And I'm sure Farley now, the way he's talking with how he's like, oh, we got to fall out of love with giant trucks and stuff. It's like, well, you did it to yourself, buddy. Like people love the Focus, people love the Fusion. And you said, sorry, guys, go to a competitor. And so they did. And I think a lot of those people, once they discovered, wow, these new Hyundais and Kias are really nice, or hey, these Hondas are really nice these days, these Toyotas, whatever, take your pick. Anyone who still makes sedans, then you gave these new brands a golden ticket to try a new brand, and they probably really liked them because I think in a lot of ways there's nothing that Ford does exceptionally well. I guess you could argue that F-150 sales don't lie, and there's a lot of people that clearly think Ford makes the best truck out there. I don't know if I necessarily think it has any super unique stuff that really puts it over the top for me personally, but a lot of people they like certain things about it, and that's okay. But I mean, I think Ford just did it themselves, and I think it's going to be tough because to get those people away from those brands, if Ford does even introduce cars with, these new EVs that are coming out, they're supposed to be cheap and stuff, are people going to want to come back to the brand, or are they going to be happy? Because again, companies like Hyundai and Kia are also doing very impressive EVs today, not in 2027 or 2028, but right now. And so, again, I think Ford's just behind on electrification in a lot of ways. They started early and they started out strong, and then now they've backpedaled and kind of dropped the ball, and everyone's happy to run with it and just keep on going from here. So I mean, I think those are all the main reasons why Ford might not have as much loyalty as they used to. They walked away from it, and they did that themselves, and hopefully the truck stuff worked out for them. Hopefully they got some new fans with the Bronco and Bronco Sport and Maverick, and again, Ford's selling a ton of vehicles still, so I don't think they're, shaking in their boots or anything, but they're, they just kind of screwed themselves, for lack of a better term, I think in a lot of ways, with a big segment. I mean, they still sell, between Camry, Accord, K5 and Sonata, and even Altima and, Legacy and all that, we're going to throw those in there, Malibu. I mean, we're talking probably close to 1 million cars still. I mean, obviously Ford wouldn't capture the entire market, but it's still a lot of cars. So yeah, I think that's part of it. So anyway, hopefully that answers your question, Jordan. Great question. Thanks for asking. And I see we had some other super chats and stuff come in, so I want to check those out here. And Kyle, thank you so much also for gifting 5 memberships. I really appreciate it. Happy to see some familiar faces. They're able to grab those. And hope everyone enjoys being back in the club here. And Sean, thank you so much for a very generous super chat. He says, I think there's a future in EVs with gas range extenders. Heck, Leno has said that he used a Volt as an errand car and he had to change out the gas after a year when it went bad because all he used was the electric motor. Yeah, and that's funny. And I know some of the newer ones, maybe I'm surprised the Volt didn't have it programmed in for this, but I know the newer Toyotas, I think every 6 months, they will lock you out of EV mode and force you to go through a tank of gas, just also for the motor's sake too. You don't want to have the motor just sitting there, not doing anything ever. So I think with Toyota's this program, I believe, I could be wrong, but I think it's every 6 months. It's like, all right, you got to use gas just for this one tank or whatever, and then you're good after that. But yeah, I think that plug-in hybrids, I've said for years, ever since the RAV4 Prime came out, I said Toyota should prime all the things tomorrow, and that plug-in hybrids are really a great solution for most Americans. And I absolutely agree. I think, from a pragmatic standpoint, there's still some issues with them. I think plug-in hybrids only make sense for the same people they make sense for that buy EVs, which is you can plug in at home. If you can't plug in at home or at work, there's no point in getting one. So I still think that's why hybrids have a huge value, because they're going to help improve emissions for a giant chunk of people that simply don't have a reliable way to plug in that's convenient for them. And so that's why I think, Toyota's multi-pronged approach is the best way to go about it, realizing that tons of people park on the street and, can't plug in. And, so you have the hybrids for them. And in a lot of cases like Camry, they're basically forcing, if you want a new Camry, it has to be a hybrid. So they're really ushering in this electrified era in a more palatable way, without overwhelming people with EVs like other companies are trying to do. So I think it makes sense. But then plug-in hybrids are great for people who, need to drive farther. And Toyota's doing some great stuff. I mean, there's talk in 2026 of them having basically range extenders in an EV platform for the next gen plug-in hybrids that have maybe 120 miles of electric range, and the gas engine is less of a primary driver of the vehicle. It still can do it, but it's not going to be, the powerhouse motor that you have in some of the stuff these days. Powerhouse is a relative term, but something that still makes 200 horsepower on its own or whatever. It's not going to be that powerful, but again, you're going to have an electrified platform, and that'll, kind of keep you going. But then, that's a good way. Again, I guess it's, kind of, instead of expecting a kid to immediately hop on a bike and immediately take off, it's giving them training wheels, and it's, training wheels either just for people to get comfortable with electrified driving, or people who just need more than 300 miles of range every day, and don't want a fast charge. They have the ability here to have the gas and have it work for them. So yeah, I think there's no wrong answer here as far as electrified stuff. I think, offer everything and, see where the chips lie, as long as we're, again, improving those emissions for everyone. I think, again, you got to meet people where they're at, because if people just can't plug in, they can't plug in. Like, no matter how badly you want them to have an EV or how much you think the planet needs it, like, if they can't plug in, there's no way around it. We can't expect everyone to go camp at a charging station for an hour, every few days or every day or whatever the case might be. It doesn't make sense for some people, and I totally respect that. And let me see. And thanks again, Sean, for the super chat. I really appreciate it. And let me see. So, Jorge, thank you so much for being a member for 29 months. Again, I think, you must be one of the first ones. I really appreciate that. He says, what do I get you for our 29th month anniversary? I really appreciate it. Your support is all that I need, and I really appreciate it, Jorge. So thank you so much. And Slam Sedan says he's in the 15-month club. Thank you so much as well, Slam Sedan, for your support. Thanks for stopping by too. Hope you're doing well. And Linda, thanks so much for gifting 5 memberships as well. I really appreciate that. Happy to see some more people able to get some memberships here and rejoin the club. And thank you, Linda, for your generosity. I'm sure everyone really appreciates it as well. And let me see, getting back to the other member questions here. So let me see. Gotta find my spot here. So Shane says the weekly update is the one thing I look forward to every week. I really appreciate it. I'm glad you still enjoy them, and thanks for letting me know that, because again, getting those comments helps me have a little more motivation to be like, okay, there's more people out there that do actually watch these on a consistent basis. Cam says I'm the same way. If it weren't for the weekly update, I'd be lost. Okay, well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I wish there was more hours in the day. I'd love to just do it all. But yeah, I got to find a way to not be maxed out so that I can have more time to do both well. That'd be great. Dylan says, I'd miss the weekly updates, but totally understand. You got to do what you got to do. You got to do what's best. No worries. Yeah. Again, we will see. It's so tough because I don't want to quit doing them, but I'm also, I'm running a business and I got to do, what makes sense. Like Dylan said. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but, Cars also says, your weekly update with car news is one of my favorite things that you do. I feel like it is the primary YouTube video I look forward to each Friday. I like it better than classic Top Gear news. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, Top Gear news is what inspired me to do those. And that's why, whenever I used to do the weekly updates combined with a BRZ weekly update or mini weekly update, when they were combined back in the day, if you remember, if you've been watching that long, I would, do my little snippet on here's what's going on with the BRZ this week or whatever, and then be like, right, so for the news, and I literally led into it exactly the way James May usually did. And so definitely is a strong inspiration. It was so cool. I don't know how many of you guys follow James May's stuff. He's still, honestly, I think my favorite of the 3 currently. He's just, I could listen to him talk endlessly. But he just did a podcast with Matt Farah on the Smoking Tire, and I loved listening to that podcast, just listening to them chat about, old Top Gear days and cars and what James May would get if he could only have 2 cars and all these fun things. I'm just a huge James May fan. So that was cool to listen to. Highly recommend if you also are a fan of Top Gear. And I also saw he got to do a walkthrough of Jay Leno's garage with Jay, and haven't had a chance to watch that either, but looking forward to watching that eventually, because anything James May, sign me up. All of his Amazon shows, I watch all of them. Our Man in Japan, Our Man in Italy, they're all just so fun to watch. So yeah, someday it's on my bucket list. I'd love to meet James May someday, or even just I think he once liked a tweet of mine many years ago when I was interacting with, I think, Engineering Explained in a thread or something. I think James May, if nothing else, he also was responding in the thread. So I'm thinking maybe he saw my tweet or something. But yeah, I'd love to someday just even do a virtual hi to him, and it'd be really cool. Because yeah, they're all an inspiration for this channel and for me. And yeah, they're living the dream. And let me see. Goth Rocker says, today saw a really nice 1960s Volkswagen Beetle that was mint and running well. An amazing F-Type V8. I really like them. What a timeless design. That car will always look great and sound great. I agree. So would love an F-Type someday. And I actually did see a 60s Beetle today as well. A bright red one. It was like beautiful, like shiny, like pristine. That was fun to see. So thanks for reminding me. I saw one as well. And Double Strike says, hi, Matt. Hope everyone is doing well. Just took my Audi S6 for a spin after many months and let my 15-year-old son try driving it. He was nice and smooth and suggested he keep it for a first car. I'm sure he'd love that for a first car. I mean, I guess if it's not getting any usage, if you're driving the Taycan Turbo all the time, better than collecting dust potentially, right? As long as, yeah, you trust your son and he's respectful of the power. That's just the thing, for young drivers is just, if they recognize they can get in over their heads and they have, good common sense, then go for it. I think that'd be great. I mean, I, as a 17-year-old, worked at this, car dealership driving 911s and S6s and stuff like that. And, it's just, you got to respect the power. Thankfully, I never had any, mishaps or anything like that. You just gotta be respectful of it, but if you got that, then you should be smooth sailing, hopefully. He said even worse was that he stated that I was a much better teacher than my wife, which now has her not talking to me. Oof. Well, sorry to hear that. I hope the couch is comfortable tonight. I'm just kidding. But yeah, well, I think you can take the wife out for a nice drive in the Taycan Turbo, and maybe that'll put a smile on her face. But thanks for stopping by, Double Strike. Hope you're doing well, other than the marital strife. And let me see here. Chad, thank you so much for a super chat. He says, I've followed you since you had the Genesis. I'd love to see them revive the spirit of that car. Maybe you're talking about when I reviewed the Genesis way back when. I'm not sure. I've never owned a Genesis. I wouldn't mind owning one someday. They're great cars, but never owned a Genesis personally. But they're all really nice. The Genesis coupes, those videos had huge views back in the day. They were very fun, those old ones, before they called them the Genesis brand. Just Hyundai Genesis coupes were great. And let me see. Linda, thank you so much for a super chat as well. She says, family time with your wife and daughter or weekly updates, easy decision. I enjoy the Sunday chats. I appreciate that. And that is another way to kind of, I've experimented one time with doing the weekly updates as a live. Didn't really go super well from a view standpoint. And so, but that would be a great workaround. And that's a good suggestion. I mean, yeah, I tried that once. Maybe it's worth trying again someday to just see, how people react to me, maybe just doing like a Friday afternoon live. And if I could just, do this same thing and just talk for an hour or something, cover the news, less of a Q&A, so I wouldn't be in the comments here as much, but just kind of doing it live, reading off the news stories, just kind of discussing it off the cuff. That would, again, take me 1 hour aside from maybe reading a few things ahead of time, but, read for an hour and then be set. And that'd be nice to, loosen up the time constraints there. So we'll see. But yeah, I see we have Richard Simmons has weaseled his way back in, so we will hide him. And hopefully with the safeguards I have in here tonight, hopefully we'll be able to hopefully keep him to a minimum here, because we're in slow mode and stuff, so that'll hopefully prevent some of that. And we'll see. But apparently he's found nothing better to do with his life, unfortunately, still. So he's decided to bother people instead on a Sunday evening. But I think Zachary is in here as well, so hopefully that he's able to help if he's free. And let me see here. So Linda says, honestly, if stopping the Friday updates made business sense, I would be okay with it. I appreciate it. Yeah, we'll see. Again, I never want to stop something that I know people love, so we'll see what happens. But Nicholas says, that's tough. I love the weekly news, but I don't get too much like that from other channels. Yeah, and that's the thing. I always thought that would be like my, unique thing is like, hey, I can do the news and no one else really does that. But now there's a lot of channels that do bolder videos where they use, stolen images from car magazines of these renderings and, these crazy, like, whoa, like here's a new thing and clickbaity stuff that's not actually real. And they're going to get a ton of views. And, now there's a lot of car news on TikTok and Instagram Reels and stuff like that too. So, I don't know. It's just, I think it's getting tougher and tougher, like anything else. I mean, there's just competition. There's more competition every day. And that's one of my challenges. And that's part of my job is trying to, rise above the competition. But I just feel like there's less appreciation for a weekly download with how fast news expires. People want it now. They want it that day. Again, aside from a few of you, and I'm glad there's, some of you that still do appreciate that. But, just the nature of news is just not conducive to a once a week kind of update, unfortunately, typically. So we'll see. Just something I still gotta keep figuring out here. Good Six says, went to the Boeing Museum. It is 20 minutes from my house. Saw the original 747 prototype that flew in 1969. Such a huge plane from ground level. That's awesome. I didn't even know Boeing had a museum. That's pretty cool to see. And hopefully all the doors stayed on the building while you were there. Had to throw in a Boeing joke, but that's really cool though. Yeah, to see prototypes and stuff. I'll have to check that out. Although I believe, Good Sick, you said you're in the UK, right? So maybe that's not something. Maybe next time I'm in the UK, I can check it out. Thanks for the heads up on that. He says it's the size of a 3-story building with the 747. That's sweet. Very, very cool. And Zachary says, I followed for years, but I finally hit the next member milestone. It's been a great 6 months in the chat. Thanks so much, Zachary, for being a member for 6 months. I really appreciate that. Hope you're doing well, too. And Linda is responding to Danny here, saying he wishes he had the money to renew his membership. Definitely make sure you try to sign up for the gifting, because that's the nice thing about the gifting is that's another way to kind of get that if you can't afford it, because I definitely don't want it to be, exclusive. But, again, since I get so many comments, I definitely have to make sure I give them priority answering, just to show my appreciation for them. But hopefully if you are signed up for the giftings, hopefully you're able to get a gifted one here. And YouTube has said in the past that I'm able to do gifts as well, but I see no option on my control panel here to do that. So if I ever figure that out too, then I can also toss in some memberships as well, but I don't see any way to do that here currently. And Shane says, last year Mazda showed the iconic SP concept that was a bit bigger than the MX-5 with rotary range extender. Yeah, and so that's, I think, getting back to our original discussion of that, I think that's most likely, what's, going to happen. If something like that were to happen, it's going to be that, it'll look probably like that because everyone loved the styling of that, and it'll probably have that powertrain, so I think that's the most likely thing. And let me see. Grant, thanks for stopping by. And let me see. Car says, I saw a Honda S2000 driving around the other day. Those were definitely some of my favorite Hondas. The way the engine revved and that intake and exhaust sound was awesome back in the day. I agree, especially AP1s. I didn't love AP2 when they lowered the red line. It just seemed a little less exciting to me. Still a great car, but AP1 is definitely where it's at. So I would love to go have another go in one of those someday if I had the time. And Dorian said, I had horrible issues with a Fusion with 300 miles. Wow. That sounds like a lemon for sure. Because there's hundreds of thousands of them driving around that obviously didn't have an issue at 300 miles. But that's, just bad luck with a lemon. I mean, it happens, a lot of cars, you get a bad apple every once in a while for whatever reason. But sorry you had an issue with one, the Dorian. That's definitely not fun at 300 miles. That sucks. Cars is happy that Danny is back to being a member here. And Austin says, Danny got a free membership. Awesome. I'm happy to see that. And let me see. And yeah, I agree with Shane. He says, Kyle come in and clutch with the memberships week after week. I know. I really appreciate it, Kyle. It's, I mean, that's, adds up. And I really appreciate all the support that you give everyone here. So many people able to stay members that otherwise, might not be able to. So thank you so much, Kyle. And Goth Rocker says, Ford screwed up getting rid of all their sedans. Also, yeah, stupid that Lincoln does not have a sedan. A luxury line should always have a nice sedan. Totally agree. And B. Mitchell says, regardless of what Farley says, Ford is only serious about the F-150 market. Yeah, seems to be that way for the most part. Jazz says, visited Pittsburgh this month. Seems like Subarus are popular. Absolutely. It seems like Subarus are like synonymous with like winter here. It's like, if you are worried about winter driving, you need a Subaru. Like, not an all-wheel drive car. Like the all-wheel drive thing is probably a component of that, but it's not even that. Like, people around here, and I think this is kind of the Northeast in general, have this general just conception that Subarus are tanks and like nothing comes close. It's like, well, you want to go in the snow, you're gonna have a Subaru. Like, you can't have anything else with all-wheel drive. It has to be a Subaru. And I think they just did so well with marketing in the 90s and the 2000s. They just ingrained in everyone's heads, that their all-wheel drive system is the best. It's the best in the snow. I mean, they did a really good job of, sponsoring every snowy event. Every area where, you go to a ski resort is probably sponsored by Subaru. It's just like they do a really good job with their marketing, honestly. And I think that, their marketing is so strong that, I mean, a lot of Subaru buyers, they don't even cross shop. They don't even care what else is out there. They don't know what else is out there, really. They just do not care. It's like, well, I have to drive in the snow, so I need a Subaru. Like, what else am I going to do? It's just like, that's it. And there's so many people like that. And I mean, Subarus are good in the snow for sure, but it's not like they have, tank treads on them that no one else has or something. Like, it's, and they're still in all season tires. And I think that's why people love the Subarus. But then what do I see the first snowfall of the year? It never fails. There's always one or two Subarus in a ditch because everyone thinks they're invincible in all season tires with their Subaru. And it's like, nah, like you still have to abide by the laws of physics. Sorry. And it just doesn't go well for a few unfortunate souls there in the beginning of the snowfall. Especially, new buyers that are like thinking again, they're invincible. Now they have a Subaru here. And let me see. And happy to have you here, Danny. And Austin says, Ford really screwed up getting rid of their hot hatches. I would have been the first in line for a new Fiesta ST or even better, a Fiesta RS. I agree. That would be amazing. It would be nice to see. We'll see if they ever come to their senses again. But I think the fact that like Maverick, instead of calling that sporty Maverick the ST, and even has ST brakes from a Focus ST, instead of just calling it ST, they called it Lobo. I'm not sure why, especially since it sounds like Lobo's a kind of controversial choice of a name for something. So I don't know. Yeah, why they didn't just call it Maverick ST. It seems like they're kind of ashamed of the ST name here in the States outside of Explorer, because I guess there's enough of a following for that. But it seems like Ford is not like ST anymore for some reason. I see Good Six also asking, why did Ford discontinue the Ecoline van for the Transit instead of making a new Ecoline? I don't know. I mean, because again, that was another area where they're happy to just give up the market to GM, because they still make the Chevy Express vans that are basically the same as they've been for the past 15 years. I don't know. I think Ford with the Transit, they have the bigger ones, which I guess is kind of a decent substitution for an Ecoline. But again, I think it was about they just wanted to raise their fleet averages and improve their fuel economies there, with the Transit being a little more aerodynamic and therefore getting better fuel economy and stuff. And I mean, it seems to do the job decently well. It's on a newer platform too, which should hopefully make it a little bit safer compared to the, ancient Chevys and stuff. But yeah, I don't have a good answer for why they walked away from it, honestly. And I think we had some more membership stuff come in here. So I wanted to, Chad, thank you so much for gifting a membership. I really appreciate it. Happy to see Caleb was able to grab that. And also Wayne Yim, thank you so much for becoming a member. I really appreciate that as well. And I will keep an eye out for any other questions you have here going forward too. And Linda, thanks so much for gifting 5 more memberships. I really appreciate that as well. And Zachary, thank you for taking care of the troll there too. Much appreciated. Everyone, appreciate all the help, everyone, all the kindness tonight. It's really, really means a lot. It makes these hopefully more enjoyable for everyone and more enjoyable for more members that are able to get their questions answered here and allow us to keep the conversations rolling. And so thanks everyone for being awesome. And let me see other member questions here. So Danny says, what do you think about the rumor of the WRX STI coming back for Subaru? Someone else mentioned this recently as well. And I haven't heard anything. I guess I don't know, I'm reading the wrong sites or something, because I have not heard about this, but this is something that someone else brought up recently as well. I mean, I think there's more plausibility to it now than there was a couple of years ago, because back whenever they killed the STI, in the press release they said STI will return for a new generation. I don't know if they said 2028, but it was understood that like 2028 is probably when we can expect a new gen, WRX and WRX STI. So that was kind of the idea, was like it's going to be electric in 2028, but this was, whenever the announcement was made back in 2021 or 2022 when STI went away. And back then EVs were super hot, they couldn't turn them out fast enough. And so, that made sense in 2022 or 2021 or whatever. But, now as we see everyone kind of backpedaling, slowing down, Subaru might not be ready for that in 2028. Now, according to Subaru's plans, what they have publicly said, the consensus, I can't remember the exact specifics, but I'm rough, foggy recollection here. I believe they're going to have one or two more things. They're going to do a lot of their stuff with Toyota. So the next two things, like, we're going to see an electric 3-row from Toyota. I believe Subaru's going to probably get a version of that. There's going to be some of this sharing that will continue to happen. I think they said by 2028, they plan to have 8 electric vehicles. And essentially, it sounds like it's going to just be an electric version of everything they currently have, because I think Subaru has 8 vehicles in their lineup currently. If you exclude the BRZ and potentially the WRX, they have roughly that amount of vehicles. So it sounds like they're probably going to offer electric versions of everything, or maybe there'll be new nameplates, but, kind of have equivalents that are electric. So if that, they just talked about this stuff a few months ago. So again, unless they are going to backpedal further, or the STI is not part of those initial batch of vehicles here in the 2020s, I can see them saying, okay, well, the electric thing's slowing down. Maybe we have more time, or maybe they're going to extend the life of the current gen WRX further than they originally were planning. So like, okay, well, now we have more time. Let's go ahead and add in, the STI here. There's that kind of a possibility. It's also, I just don't know, because, from a power standpoint, they could do it easily, with just a tune on, the FA24 there, but, they don't love doing that. We're already seeing they're basically doing everything but a full-blown STI with, now we have the WRX TS here coming later this year, and that, has the adaptive dampers, has the Recaros, has the bigger brakes, the Brembos. Basically all you're missing is the active, controllable diff and more power and a rear wing. You're 3 elements away from being an STI with that TS. And with the aftermarket, the tune is easy to fix. So power wise, you're kind of set with a TS unless you want that, adjustable diff. And like the GR Corolla has it, but there's really nothing else that offers that kind of flexibility now. So they might not see a need, to be completely honest. I think that Subaru, if you're a product planner and you see how hot the WRX is still selling really well, and they have their niche of people that are happy to buy the $30,000 base bare bones car and get their manual transmission, 270 horsepower for 30 grand and go about their merry way, they're good. And you also got to keep in mind the price of this thing would be. If you had a new STI come out, look at how many people are complaining, myself included, about the pricing for WRX TR and stuff like that. An STI easily would be over $50,000, easily. So, are people going to want to pay 50 grand for that? I don't know. People complain about a 40 grand GR Corolla. People are complaining about Civic Type R being 46 grand. You say, okay, it's gonna be 50 for an STI. Now all of a sudden, how excited are you for an STI? So I think, again, you meet people where they are. You got people that say, okay, well, let's give them the 30 grand one. Let's do, these high-end expensive ones for people who don't want adaptive dampers and all these, Brembos. Here you go. Here's a TS. you figure out the power yourself, and hopefully you're fine with the regular diff. And, but otherwise you're basically there. And I think, and I'm happy they're doing the TS, because whenever they first announced the WRX GT at the launch of the regular WRX, we were like, why are you locking the adaptive dampers to only the CVT car? And they're like, well, we think that only people who, want an automatic are going to be wanting adaptive dampers. I'm like, why do you think that? But whatever. But here we are a few years later, and they're now answering the call for finally adaptive dampers with the manual and the TS. So I think, they're figuring out little by little. Will they make the full leap to STI? I'm sure I'd love to see it. But I think, again, to me, the spiritual successor to the STI is the GR Corolla. It has the adjustable diff. It has 300 horsepower. Sure, it's not a boxer motor, and it's a 3-cylinder, and it's not as roomy as a WRX. But if you want an STI, I just tell you to go buy a GR Corolla. And I'm sure if Two's in here or anyone else can chime in and say I'm a Toyota shill for saying it again, because I always have to plug the GR Corolla like once every live stream. It's like a running joke at this point. But if you want an STI, just get a GR Corolla. It really feels just like that, with the boosty nature, the peaky motor and stuff. That's why I love the GR Corolla, because the WRX fan in me comes out with that vehicle, and I absolutely adore the GR Corolla. So, and you can get it for 40 grand and undercut, even the WRX TS and stuff. So that would be my play all day long. But those are my thoughts on the STI comeback. I hope it happens. I'd love to see it. But I still wouldn't hold your breath. I'd say, again, it's likely now with everyone backpedaling on EVs, but again, we'll see. Subaru doesn't. I'd like to use logic, but Subaru doesn't make logical decisions oftentimes, in my mind, at least from an outsider's perspective looking in. It doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense sometimes. So I think using logic to kind of figure that out is probably a lost cause. So that's why I got to throw my hands up in the air and say, we'll see. I wish I, had some info or a better idea. And let me see. So we're also getting some more super chats in. Sorry to keep everyone waiting for those. But Chad, thank you for a super chat. He says, do you think Polestar went too far getting rid of the rear window? It seems pointless. Electric vehicles need to differentiate themselves, but ... Yeah. I think getting rid of the rear window seems like a dumb move. I don't know, especially a company so mindful about safety. What about redundancies? What happens when that camera breaks? What happens if it gets all gunked up? I've had rear cameras on lots of press vehicles get gunked up, and some of them have washers. I'm guessing the Polestar might have a washer for the camera, but that's not perfect either. What if you're in some sub-zero freezing temperatures and, it just freezes over or glazes over because it's so cold or something? I don't know. Maybe it's heated water or something, but like even it seems like a weird move for a safety-minded company like Polestar and Volvo to do that. And it just seems pointless. I don't think there's any aero gain, from an efficiency standpoint to get rid of it. I don't think it's really much of a cost-cutting thing. I mean, sure, I guess a piece of plastic is cheaper than a piece of glass, but with everything else being so expensive, you're going to, save a few pennies swapping that. It seems dumb to me. I'm sure they have a good reason why they did it. Otherwise they wouldn't have. But to me, it seems weird. I agree with you. I'm firmly in the camp of give me all the windows, please. Thanks. And Italian Ice, thank you so much for the very generous super chat. I really appreciate it. And he says, hello, Matt. Hope all is well. Can I still be a car enthusiast if I hate parallel parking? Absolutely. I think most people probably hate parallel parking. Some people probably have some, enjoyment over mastering that skill. But I think this is why, you see more and more cars having automated parallel parking and stuff, because most people don't want to do it. I mean, I can say, back in the day when I was good at it, I'm not the best at it because I rarely do it. I maybe do it once or twice a year. When I was good at it, you get a certain appreciation. And I'm sure city dwellers that do it all the time, probably really enjoyed nailing a perfect parallel parking job. But I'm right there with you. I think most people would agree I'm a car enthusiast as well, and I hate parallel parking as well. So I'm right there with you. You're not alone. And thank you again for the very generous super chat as well. And let me see other member questions here. Let me see, where were we? So I apologize, I'm so far behind as well. I will try and catch up here as best I can. But Austin says a retro Econoline would have been awesome. The Euro Transit fan is meh. I agree. And maybe Ford will want to join the van life with a cool boxy thing someday. That'd be fun. And let me see. B. Mitchell's chiming in, the ankle line is not totally dead as the E Super Duty cab and chassis is still in production. Oh, okay. Nice. I didn't know that. Danny says, as a 16-year-old in my family, the one of two who enjoys cars in the family is pretty weird. And I'm going to start driving, in New Jersey is a crazy state. Yeah. I don't know. I haven't driven in New Jersey a lot, but the few times I have, it's been okay. So I know the roads were just really rough the last time I was there. They were just like tons of potholes. We're just in terrible shape. But it's been years since I've honestly driven in New Jersey, so probably not up to date on on the current state of the state. But it's awesome you're into cars at a young age too. It's really fun because I think there's certainly a lot that are. I think all the gloom and doom articles of young people not being into cars is definitely very overblown and exaggerated, but I'm just happy to see that you're into cars. That's awesome. Austin says, I always laughed at the Ecoline name, though. Hardly good fuel economy, right? Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm not sure why they ever gave it that name, because I don't think it was ever even remotely efficient, even for its time. But anyway, Mike says, hey, man, I think you've driven it, so I'm not asking for your driving impressions yet, but when you look at pricing of Civic Hybrid versus the new Camry, do you think the Civic is a tough sell just off the MSRP? I should know Camry pricing because I actually have a new Camry this week, but I haven't done all my refresher research on it yet because I haven't filmed the video on that yet. But I mean, Civic Hybrid does come in cheaper than Camry, right? I believe so. Maybe not. I think Civics, though, there's certainly a Civic price premium these days because anything you compare a Civic to, the Civic is always like the more premium, more expensive, competitor. Whether we're talking about Civic or we're talking about, compared to we're talking Civic Si in the sporty segment, or you're talking regular base Civics or whatever, they're always just a little pricier. For some people it's worth it, and I think it's certainly nice if you have the extra cash to spend. I think Civic certainly has some nice perks over a Corolla and things like that. But yeah, whenever you're talking about how closely they're all priced with Camry and stuff like that, yeah, again, I'd have to look at exactly what standard equipment you get on one versus the other and really do a good comparison. I need to have more info up to know, because off the top of my head, it's hard to say exactly. I know Camry does give you a lot of great standard safety stuff and a lot of good, screens and all that is standard. So yeah, I don't know. They're close. And it's whenever you're talking about all these vehicles are priced so close to each other. If you're super price sensitive, there might be a little case to be made for one or the other. But I think this is why they sell tons and tons of Camrys, because it's a lot of car for the money. And even these new ones, I mean, I see them everywhere already. And I think it's because, again, they kept it actually slightly less expensive than the outgoing hybrid. They churned out a ton of them, and it's a really impressive car, a lot of space and easy to live with, and legendary reliability. So, I mean, Civic, again, also has a lot of those same qualities to it, but it's just you're paying that premium. I mean, you could even argue Civic Hybrid versus Accord Hybrid. Obviously, you can get a Accord Hybrid way more expensive, but, you can, I think, get into the hybrid version not much more than a Civic, so it's the same problem of they're also, tightly spaced there. I mean, some people might like a smaller vehicle, and there's some, niches that they can fill with that, but yeah, I mean, I can see it being a little bit of a tough sell, with those higher price tags. I'm hoping to, I think actually I'm going to be finally reviewing a Civic Hybrid next month. And I'll rush out that video because I know a lot of people are curious about that car. So that one will kind of jump the line of my long backlog, and I'll post that one next month, hopefully. But yeah, it seems like it's an appealing vehicle, but just again, yeah, you're just paying the Honda premium these days and not oftentimes getting more for your money from a stuff per dollar standpoint. Often, that's kind of the problem there. And let me see. Car says, I learned to drive in a 1983 Ford Ecoline Club Wagon van. It brings back memories to see it come up in the chat today. That's awesome. That must have been a handful to learn to drive on. You really had the trial by fire technique there for especially parallel parking and stuff like that. So kudos to you. That's hilarious. And Danny says, yeah, when I get my permit, my parents are going to teach me on the family Chevy Bolt. Then I'll graduate to driving our family's Traverse, nicknamed Big Bertha. Nice. Well, you got your work cut out for you as well with a Traverse. Don't take that one for the parallel parking test. If your state does parallel parking tests, take the Bolt. Much easier on yourself there. But best of luck there with the permit and getting your license in the future as well. Austin says, I enjoy the weekly updates more than even some of your reviews, Matt, since it's always diverse cars. Most of the electric SUV crossover reviews I skip as I have no interest in that segment. Gotcha. Yeah, and I think that's always going to be the kind of the challenge with reviews in general is, I don't expect everyone to watch, every video, especially if it's, a segment you're not interested in or something like that. So, yeah, I think just from an algorithm standpoint, it's still, again, I'm always going to have the challenge of, again, the vehicles that I have to review versus a regular YouTuber that you're just following their life, or you just want to watch them talk 3 times a week or whatever the case is. That's a different thing. And I think it's a little bit of an easier challenge in some ways. It's harder in others, but yeah, that's kind of the thing with the reviews. And this is why, you see car review channels. I mean, a lot of them do, grow really quickly, and there's some that are huge success stories currently. But I think this is why you see most of the biggest automotive channels are channels that stick to the same kind of thing. Whether you're talking about the Chris Fixes of the world, who are just like, here's how to fix stuff, and every single video is about fixing stuff. It's a consistent theme. Or you're talking about the build channels that are like doing these long series. That's, again, it's about the repeat customers, essentially, of I'm starting a build series, and so I'm going to have this car, and you're going to follow the whole way through, and then that sends a huge signal to YouTube, like, wow, this person watched all or most of the videos in this series. Let's recommend this channel for a long time after, and continue to boost that channel as a result. And so it's about linking those video sessions, or linking, if not in the same sitting, just every time, basically anytime a video is recommended to you, it sends a signal, whether you click on it or not. Everything you do on YouTube sends a signal to the algorithm. So how fast you scroll past stuff, how much you click, how little you click, it's super important. And your views have power for not only your algorithm, but just also for everyone's algorithm that you watch. And so there's a lot that goes into it, but yeah, that's the kind of the challenge with all of us car review channels, and just just in general, as everything continues to get more and more electrified, either sooner or later, whether we're talking in the next 10 years or in 2050, like we're going in that direction, and there's going to be a lot of people that don't want to see that. And that's kind of been one of my things, as far as this fork in the road I'm eventually going to come to, of people that either just say bye because all you're doing is electrified stuff in the future when that's all there is that's new, or you have just a lot of people that might choose to just go backwards and just start reviewing old stuff, and that's it. I think my plan is to kind of do a little bit of both, but it'll be interesting to see how every other channel handles that, because a lot of these channels that are big car review channels only do new stuff, and it seems like a lot of them do just fine views wise, but we'll see if that continues to be the case or not. But Good Stick says, Jeremy Clarkson started the new Top Gear format when I was 6 months old. Now I graduated college and it's over. That's wild. Yeah, talk about a ride. Yeah, I mean, for me, I started watching back in college, back when you had to, watch it through, some legally questionable means, because we wouldn't get it here in the States. They didn't broadcast it. Otherwise, I would have gladly, I even would have bought it on iTunes or paid for it on pay-per-view or something like that, but they never offered any of that. So you had to go and, find it on torrent sites and stuff like that to get the episodes. But I loved watching it, and so yeah, college is kind of when I first started watching it pretty regularly. And that actually, my roommate at the time wasn't super into cars, just a little bit, but he'd hear it on in the background. Then he started getting hooked, and now he's a huge fan of the trio as well, and is a lot more into cars, I think, than he would have been without Top Gear as well. So I think it created a whole generation of car enthusiasts that otherwise probably wouldn't have ever really cared. And so I think they did a lot of good for the car community. Yeah, I'm forever grateful for their inspiration, among others, but they were one of the ones that showed hey, you can do this on video, and it can be a possible job. It's really fun, and so again, I'd love to meet all of them someday. It'd be so cool. And Cara says, yes, I remember your segue into the news now that you mentioned it. Speaking of James May, I just saw his recent video with Jay Leno. It was a lot of fun, really cool to see. Yeah, I definitely want to watch it at some point. But Austin says, James May just went to Jay Leno's garage and seemed really disinterested in what Jay was showing him. Interesting. I feel like James would love the stuff that Jay has with like the steam powered cars and all those, things. I don't know. Maybe James was just having an off afternoon or something. I don't know. That's interesting. Yeah, I'm curious to watch the video because it seemed like James had a great time on the Smoking Tire podcast, at least. So I don't know. Maybe something happened between then and Jay's garage or something. I don't know. And Linda says, I followed you for 7 years. I appreciate that, Linda. Thank you so much. And I see everyone reacting to the troll there. Let me see. Linda says, maybe just include news at the beginning, or I see Cars saying maybe just include news at the beginning of the live stream for 30 minutes. Yeah, I don't know. I love the interaction though. I love hanging out with you guys and just kind of chatting casually. That's why I'd probably just do a separate live stream. And I was on site now. Yeah, because a lot of you, if you follow me on Instagram, you already know I was on this Chevy Equinox drive for the new gen version. That video will be coming out here this week. But that's I was in Minneapolis for, and I met a few cool new YouTubers, and they were saying how like they do a bunch of lives, and this is probably something that'd be worth. I actually have two questions. While we've brought up the idea of live streams and like the format of these, I'm going to do a poll here about whether or not you guys would like to see an additional live stream, because I don't want to like overload people with these, and maybe a second one would be shorter, but these are so easy for me to do because again, I literally just show up and hang out and talk with you guys, and it's hopefully enjoyable content for you guys as well. That again takes me zero time aside from again how long the live goes for. And I'd love to do more of them. I just don't want to again burn out people with too many of these. So I'm going to do a poll though and see, would you like another live stream each week? And give me a second here to type this in. And we'll do yes or no, and after this I have another question as well, but we will see what the result of this one is. If you don't mind voting, I would appreciate it. I see Sixlick says more live streams, more fun. I appreciate that. All right, we have no no's yet, so very kind of all of you. Or maybe we do a few because we're at a percentage here. So okay, 73% say yes, so that seems pretty strong. So maybe we can, I'm going to noodle with this a little bit more and see. Yeah. And if you have any thoughts on what you would like to see from a live stream from me, that would be great. Cause, again, I'm happy to just do Q&As. Obviously we have no shortage of questions ever. So I'm happy to just keep, answering questions and just talking about whatever. But if you'd like to see more structure with like a weekly update one and kind of swapping that over on Fridays or something, I'd be happy to do that. But okay, so we got a pretty good consensus, I think. There we're sitting pretty solid at 74%. So I'm going to end this one. The other follow-up thing is just another thing that YouTube has been kicking around is vertical lives. Supposedly that's a good way to grow live streams because these aren't really growing too much. And I mean, I'm fine. We have plenty of comments and plenty of people hanging out here, so I don't need to grow it really, but that's just a good way to grow the channel because now YouTube is putting vertical lives in the shorts feed, so that while this is going on, it pushes it to everyone in the shorts feed. So people who might not have ever heard of the channel or just scrolling through and be like, oh wait, and watch this as it's happening, and you can kind of get some new fans that way, supposedly. So that's a good way to grow, supposedly. So I'm going to do a poll how you guys would feel about a vertical live stream if it was either just the same thing on Sundays, but just vertical video instead of horizontal. Everything else would be the same, just vertical. I'm gonna do a poll, see how you guys feel about a vertical one. I know a lot of you probably watch on TV, so it probably wouldn't be quite as good, but let me do a quick type here. And again, be honest. If you guys hate the idea, that is totally okay too. But definitely let me know your thoughts on that, and we will let those come in here for a second. And while we're doing that, let me see. I'm gonna see the few comments here just while we're discussing this, and then I'll get back to the other questions. I see some hearts there, so I appreciate that. Luke says, I enjoyed the live, but too much of a good thing can be bad, in my opinion. The more fun, the less fun the thing becomes, just my opinion. I can understand that viewpoint. That's a good point. Patrick says just pop on without warning, kind of sneak peek on what you're working on, something breaking news. Okay. Yeah, that could be a cool way to do it. If it takes a live stream to keep the Friday weekly update, I'm fine with that. Okay. I appreciate that. I see TFI says vertical's fine. I listen in the background while I game. Cool. That's I appreciate the insight there and how you consume it. That's cool. Sixlick says, regardless of the orientation of the screen, as long as it helps out the channel, we're all for it. I appreciate that. I see we got 54% no, though, 52 now. So it's split. Okay. So yeah, maybe that's like Patrick's saying, kind of do it as a more informal thing, which is kind of the best way, I think, for vertical anyway, because I think this, again, it'd be harder for me to keep up with questions and stuff, I think, on vertical if I'm having to look at my phone screen versus looking at, I got my monitor here that I can, keep a better tab on all the activity going on and stuff. So yeah, maybe that's the way to do it. I appreciate that, Patrick, especially. Maybe we just, do verticals for something informal if I'm at a car show or something to just kind of pop on you, like you said, without warning. Okay. That's a great idea. And I see Austin says, I watched the weekend live stream on a 4K TV, but Friday afternoon, I'd love to watch it work on my phone. Okay. So I guess the vertical is a little easier that way, maybe. Good Six says, I can't imagine, electric rally cars with no restrictions. These EVs could easily push 1,000 horsepower, could bring back Group V vibes. Yeah, I mean, it'd be fun to see. I love rally in general, so any rally is always a fun watch, in my opinion. But Slam chiming in here says, vertical is a no for me. More live streams, I feel like the second live stream would hit a different demographic of viewers, some new viewers. Yeah, potentially. But I appreciate the honesty here. And yeah, it looks like we are split dead at 50-50 here for yes and no for the verticals. Okay. So yeah, maybe that's something worth trying once. And if it doesn't move the needle as far as subscribers and things like that, then maybe I will leave that one be. But that's just, that's the current algorithm chase. Everyone's saying, well, we're going to push your channel more if you do vertical live. So it's trying to do that. But yeah, I'm happy again with the way things are. Just was curious to hear you guys' thoughts on that. So thank you all for chiming in and being honest. I appreciate that. And let me see. Dylan says, I know you're wicked busy as is, but maybe in the future there could be a few videos here and there about track days or autocross. I would love to. I never go to that kind of stuff. I don't even go to Cars and Coffee anymore, really. So, I mean, the only time I'm on a track is for a media drive. I haven't gone to an autocross, I don't know, probably at least 5 years, probably honestly more. It's probably more like 7 or 8 years since I've been to an autocross. And Austin says, do a Junkyard hunt live stream. Dude, that's a super good idea. Because I did the live stream, or I did the Junkyard walk last year, and it didn't get a ton of views. Live would be really cool, just to kind of walk around and check out cars. I've been wanting to get back to the Junkyard too. I think I need to give you the gold star for the night, Austin. That might be something I should do. Especially, I've been wanting to work with Pull Apart again. I should send them an email and be like, let's do it live. They might actually think that's a fun idea. I see we got some support there with the little emojis. I appreciate the hearts and the hundreds. Okay, that could be fun. Okay, I'm pumped for that. That's exciting. I gotta figure out how live streams work on the phone so I can actually do that well. But all right, that is fun. I'm gonna see maybe this fall I can try and find a couple hours to run out to a Junkyard if I can find a break in my schedule and do that, because I love Junkyard so much. I wish that video I did last year did better. I mean, it didn't completely bomb, but I would love, again, if I had more time, I would just do a whole channel dedicated to just literally walking around Junkyards. I find it so fascinating. And again, maybe I'm alone here on this or one of the few, but I'm glad you appreciate it as well, Austin. And that could be, again, low effort. If it's just me literally living it, walking around, there's literally, aside from driving there, walking around and then driving home, there's no other time commitment from an editing standpoint. So that could be the silver bullet, best of all the worlds kind of thing. Thank you for that, Austin. That is, I'm actually really jazzed to do that now. I'm excited for that. Thank you, Austin. You've given me a perfect reason to go to the Junkyard again and do something else as a vertical live too. Sweet. I wish I could give you a brownie point or some kind of way to reward you, but I don't. I don't think there's any way to to do anything like that. But thank you so much, Austin. That's awesome. And the Six says maybe do this as a series. Absolutely. I mean, if they would do well, 100% I would go once a week. If it was something that the views made sense to justify it, then I would, make time to be like, okay, well, maybe I do, one less video where I do, something else and then do that as a substitute. And again, if the views support that, then that makes my life easier and more fun. That could be a really nice kind of change of pace from the grind here. So thank you for that. I see Decepticon also, and Dorian, B. Mitchell, Justin. All right. I'm seeing some support here. This is exciting. All right. Thank you guys. I really appreciate that. That's awesome. And yeah, thanks so much for that. All right, I'm pumped. You guys are awesome. All right, well, I don't want to neglect any more of the member questions, so let me get back to those here. But thank you, that was very, very valuable. Thank you all so much for your feedback. So let me see here. Where were we with the member questions? Get a drink here because I'm going to be probably scrolling for a bit. So let me see. All right, found my spot. So Goth says, Matt, don't do the updates live. I like it when you can show the photos and present it like a half-hour show. It's more relaxed. I agree. That's kind of been my problem with those as well, because I remember when I did it as a trial run, it wasn't great because you couldn't see what I was talking about. And I think that's probably the biggest problem with doing them live. Very good point again. And so, yeah, it's just trying to find the time to get those done. But Immutable Dude says, just checking in before bed. Keep up the Friday news. I appreciate that. Immutable, thanks so much for stopping by. I'm sure you probably have gone to bed at this point, but thanks for the comment and for stopping by, and hope you have a good week. Austin says, if it's a choice between no updates or live, I'll take the live. Yeah, but hopefully, again, we won't have to make that choice. Jazz says, I heard the Boeing tour in Washington State is worthwhile. Interesting. I didn't know there's one in Washington State. I will be in that vicinity actually next month. I mean, I don't have any time probably to even do that anyway if I wanted to, but I will look into it just to know what I'm missing out on. Excuse me, but thanks for the tip on that, Jazz. And Nicholas says, taking Dad to WC race in Austin next week. Can't wait. Awesome. That's so fun. Hope you have a great time. And Austin's great as well. I have family there and hoping to go back again soon. But anyway, I see we had, I think 2 is in the house. Thanks for stopping by, 2. The very generous super chat as always says, oh, it's not a basement live until 2 says hi with his crazy rhymes, but somehow I'm interested in the Volvo C30 T5. Good rhyme there. I love the C30. I thought they're really cool. And I didn't realize they made them in a manual until someone offered me one recently. And I'd love to review that at some point. But yeah, C30s are cool. There was one traded in at the dealership I worked at, again, back in a former life when I was a teenager. And I actually thought it was a really cool little car. And just, yeah, I mean, it had a turbo motor. And again, I think back then it was just like, oh, it sucks that it has an automatic. I didn't even know back then it came in a manual. But yeah, I mean, Volvos were always a little sketchy with reliability long term. And at that point, I had, again, a Legacy GT Spec B. So I was, my car was clearly better in my mind. But I mean, yeah, C30s are super cool, though, for sure. And yeah, I see TFI also says they're basically slept on basically a Euro Focus RS. Interesting. Yeah, I need to learn more about them someday. And I'd love to, again, someone did offer me one. I think they're far away from, because it's been a few months since they offered it to me, but it's a car. It's on my list. I saved it. Maybe someday I will finally get through all the cars that are offered to me. I'm sure by the time I get around to them, half of the people will probably not even have the cars anymore. But hopefully someday I'll be able to do some more of those things that I'm also curious about learning more about myself and experiencing. But thanks so much too for the super chat there. Hope you're doing well, and thanks for stopping by. And let me see, getting back to the other member questions here. Also I missed it. Grant, thank you so much for gifting 5 memberships. Sorry, I missed that until now. I don't know why that one didn't pop up for me here. But thank you so much, Grand Admiral, for your generosity. I'm sure everyone really appreciates it as well. And I see Austin says, yeah, so many membership gifts tonight. I know everyone's being so generous here. I really appreciate all the kindness here in the live. And let me see, getting back to other member questions here. So Car says, per YouTube, to gift these free of charge memberships to viewers during a live stream or premiere, click the money icon within the live chat, select membership gifting, and click gift 5 now. Okay. See, I thought I tried this once before and it didn't work, but see, yeah, on mine it says to show support for member and motoring, my options are super stickers and super chat. Those are my only two options. So I'm not sure. I don't think there's any other money icons anywhere around here for for me to do anything else. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, obviously, I think that's how everyone else does it, but I don't know why YouTube does not give me that choice. I would love to gift memberships if I could, but they told me I could a while back, but it's for some reason only showing me supers are my options here. But I appreciate that, Cars, and hopefully one day YouTube makes it easy to do for me. But Austin says, hey, Matt, did you hear 2025 Nissan Sentra is going to start at 21.5? Nice to see an affordable car stick around. Absolutely. I did see that. I think that they're following Volkswagen's lead, with Volkswagen, seeing this huge growth in Jetta sales, because everyone's like, oh, wait, it's actually, way cheaper than these Civics and even Corolla. I mean, I think Corolla gets kind of close, but not that cheap, I don't think, anymore. So I think there's this new growing appreciation for, the Jetta, the Sentra, even like we were talking previously in other live streams about the Versa. I think that's the way to do it. Absolutely, that's the way to do it. Because again, and I've said this many times before, but there's so much standard equipment now on a base car. They all come with CarPlay. They all come with a lot of more safety stuff than most people probably even want, honestly. And they're all totally fine from a base car standpoint. There's nothing as a penalty box really anymore. And this is something, why, in the past, I mean, obviously I can still be critical about a car and be negative about certain things, especially when we're talking about sports cars and when you're comparing them to other stuff. But from a modern car standpoint, nothing is horrendous. I'd say maybe Mirage, possibly. I've never even driven one, but that's the only thing that's really dated and super low horsepower, really, really tiny. But even Versa, I had one for a week a few years back, totally fine. And Sentra, I mean, I just had a Sentra a few months ago, really nice little car. And sure, if you stripped away the leather or the heated seats, it's still a really nice car that you don't need all these things, and it's totally 21.5 for a Sentra all day long. Totally support that choice. Same thing goes for Jetta at that price point. I've been desperately asking for the new gen Jetta. I'm not sure when they're going to start popping into the press fleet and stuff, but I want to drive that new Jetta, or just, I mean, it's a heavy refresh, but I want to just, get the info out there. Hey, look, you can get a really nice car for, $22,000. This is the way, follow it. I wish every company would do this same thing. So I'm happy to see that. And I think companies are realizing, there's a limit to the amount of people that are willing to, spend these enormous amounts of money on stuff. And maybe it's short-lived. We'll see as interest rates drop here in September in the States, if, all of a sudden people are like, oh, okay, well, now I'll spend a little more on cars, and maybe the whole idea of the affordable sedan goes out the window again for a lot of buyers. But I think hopefully people are finally being like, you know what? I don't need the SUV. I don't need some giant thing. I don't need to get crappy fuel economy. A Sentra works just fine, or a Jetta, or whatever else. They're really good cars. You don't need to have all the bells and whistles and have some fancy thing sitting high off the ground in order to have a nice car in 2024. There's so many good base cars that are fantastic. But yeah, that stuff makes me so excited, because I'm about the affordability thing. I want to report on stuff that's accessible to everybody, or a lot of people. And so yeah, I want to shout from the rooftops, you can get a great new car for 21.5. Absolutely. And I hope to do more of that here, later this year. And Caleb says, seeing tons of Cybertrucks and Toyota Crowns in my area recently. Interesting. I've been seeing a bunch of Cybertrucks too. They're really popping up, but Crowns is a surprise. I haven't. I did actually see one today. I did a ton of miles on the highway today, though, so that's part of why. But usually don't see very many. I mean, I see them every once in a while, but they're rare in my area. But that's cool that they're selling somewhere. They're not making a whole lot of Crowns anyway, so I don't think Toyota's too worried about it. But they're definitely not a hot seller, so that's cool you see them. Jim says, what are your thoughts on the 3000 GT as a future classic? Absolutely. I think it already is a future classic, right? I mean, I think there was some on Bring a Trailer or something that were going for pretty big money and nice shape. Absolutely. I mean, that car, if there was ever a car that had like appeal for a future classic, I mean, it was just so futuristic. You had four-wheel steering, twin turbos, what I think they had torque vectoring, if I remember correctly, as well back then. Like all kinds of crazy stuff in that thing. I mean, man, talk about how far Mitsubishi has fallen. It's such a shame. But I mean, yeah, that car 100%. 3000 GTs were like a time machine from the future or something. Like so cool. That's another car I'd love to review. I had one offered to me. I think it was a VR4. Never had a chance to drive it though, and I don't know if they still have it or not. But it's one of the cars I've been wanting to do. If I could find the time to go out and meet up with these people all over the country, I'd love to review one of those. I did have a friend in college that had one, so I've ridden in one a couple of times. And his was just a regular automatic V6, so it was the more ordinary one, but still was a super cool car. I always thought they looked cool too, like just such great cars. Absolutely future classic, definitely a good investment. And yeah, highly can recommend it, even though I've never driven it. It's got to be amazing just because of, again, the futuristic stuff it had on it. I think even if it wasn't perfectly executed, just the fact that you're driving around and something that was so forward looking is just so cool, I think. And let me see here. Sorry, I missed a couple of other supers that came in here. Jordan, thank you for a super chat. He says, where do we send pics/infos for car of the week? Wherever you would like to, whatever social media platforms convenient for you. All my stuff is in the description, so just expand the description, find whatever platform works for you. If you are I don't think you're in the Discord server that we have, for the members, but that's another thing. That's like how the venue that was just sent this past week, that was they just sent that through the Discord server, so you can do that. Or you can DM me on Instagram. I'm not really on X anymore, but you could on Facebook Messenger, Instagram. I'm even on Threads, any of that stuff. Whatever works for you. Can be, or even again just good old fashioned email. I got my email address in there as well. You can always send it in there. So whatever works for you. And I'm happy to see I'm getting more submissions. So I got a few weeks worth of vehicles here to post up. So that'll be great. And thank you, Jordan, for offering that. And two, thank you for another super chat as well. He says, that new car is starting to grow on me. Still don't like that CVT. Maybe we'll get another 8-speed, hopefully a GR Camry. Damn, the Shady Bug got me. Nice. I hope you're enjoying the resurgence of Slim Shady here. And I still got to check out the whole album. I just heard Houdini, but I have not checked out the whole album yet. I need to do that. But yeah, I appreciate you stopping by too. And and let me see. Let me get back to the other member questions here. Where was I? There we are. So Hyper Shadow says, Matt, since you used to be the beige, the Subaru X fan, I want to know if you could choose between a new free Mustang EcoBoost and a new free Super BRZ, which would you choose? Great way to phrase that question, just to kind of get other variables out of the way. You know me well. If someone just handed me one for free to drive and enjoy, I would take the BRZ. EcoBoost, especially now that it's only automatic and they put that 10-speed in with it. If you watch that video, that 10-speed is just crap. It just, to me, just does not ever figure out what you want to do. At least with my driving style, just did not like it. It's surprising. I actually so alongside the Camry that I currently have this week, I also have the new Ranger, and that has, I again haven't done all of my research on it yet because I haven't done the video for that yet, but I believe that's also the 10-speed. And it's the 2.3 EcoBoost, just like the Mustang. But there's been a few times where it hasn't given me a downshift that does some of the same behavior as the Mustang, but not as much of it. I think it's just the motor's tuned differently too. So it's less aggravating in the Ranger. Thankfully, I actually am really enjoying the Ranger. Stay tuned for that video if you're in the mid-size truck market. Ranger's actually better than I expected. But anyway, so the transmission just kills the EcoBoost. Even if it was manual, though, the BRZ is just so magical. I absolutely adore it, these new gen versions. So I'd go BRZ for sure. But great question. Thanks for asking, Hyper Shadow. And let me see. Happy to see again more people are able to get those memberships there. Thanks to Linda. And I see Nathaniel was able to get one, so I'm glad you got one. And happy to have you back here, Nathaniel, in the member club. And yeah, thanks so much for the generosity again. And let me see. Immutable says symmetrical all-wheel drive. Yeah, that is the Subaru calling card. Nathaniel says people forget about Jeep Trailhawk for all models, but you're right. Chrysler has crap marketing. Subaru spends the money. Yeah, a lot of it just really comes down to marketing, you know, especially for non-car people that don't know to cross shop or just don't think about it. You know, they need the commercials still. That it really, I mean, marketing still exists for a reason because it's important to get your products in front of people. This is why you still companies pay enormous money for the Super Bowl ads, because people who would have never bothered to look at your brand or your vehicle or whatever it is you're advertising, you've got an audience that all of a sudden now is aware of something they probably would have never been aware about otherwise, you know? So it's marketing is important for sure, because, you know, even to find like my channel, YouTube's not going to recommend you a car review, you know, if you've never watched a car review before. So you have no clue this whole niche of YouTube even exists. I mean, there's people out there that have no clue who Doug DeMuro is, believe it or not, you know, and there's an enormous amount of people that have no clue who he is. So, you know, there's those types of things that, you know, you got to give people the little awareness there about like, hey, maybe you should, you know, check out this on YouTube. I think Google does a good job of pointing people to stuff. If at least people just Google things, they'll hopefully stumble upon a review or something. But you know, even with that, that may be less and less common as we see all these AI summaries popping up now on Google and stuff that are going to be another challenge for me in the future. If they just summarize what my video is about, and it's like, well, do you have to actually watch it anymore? And then I don't, you know, I don't get the views, I don't get the ad revenue for that. And then, you know, so we'll see. It's still a wild west with YouTube and the internet, and who knows how that's all going to go. But marketing for now, at least, is still very important. And Good Stick says Tesla's all-wheel drive system is crap. Even though I got the dual motor version, the car hydroplane like crazy and loses traction a lot in bad weather. Interesting. I mean, the hydroplaning thing is not a drive motor thing. That's basically entirely tires and speed, at least the way I understand it. I could be wrong. So for that, it could be maybe if Tesla's tire choice is crap, or whatever tires came on the car could be part of the problem there. Losing traction in bad weather. If it's just spinning, I don't know. I mean, Teslas around here in the winter do okay. The ones that I've seen, I don't think I've seen a stuck Tesla, honestly. We'll see. I'm sure someone will try and win a Darwin Award in a Cybertruck this winter, or I'm sure multiple people will. But you know, it's at least for now, it seems like Teslas have been doing okay, what I've seen. Although, wasn't it last or this past spring when the Cybertruck was brand new? I think someone already got one stuck in the snow. I think there was a viral video of like an F-150 pulling them out or something. I'm sure we'll see lots of that this winter. Get your popcorn ready. And Car says, more from YouTube. What do I need to share these gift memberships with my viewers? Free of charge. Gift memberships are currently not available for brand accounts. Yeah, that's not me, because I'm not a brand. I think that's for like actual, you know, brands. I don't know. Yeah, I gotta figure it out for sure. And I actually, I had like a YouTube like partner person that I tried to ask about this a while back too, and they didn't give me anything either. They just like copy and pasted you know, some of the help articles, which didn't actually help. So I don't know, maybe there's something I'm missing. I'm also going to try and do like a fancier live setup. A lot of people use different streaming platforms as far as like the encoding software that allows like comments to pop up on the physical screen, so you're not having to like stare at the you know, chats here and stuff. And I'm hoping to maybe add a little more sophistication to these in the future. So maybe that's the solution. Maybe I need to be off of YouTube, strangely enough, and on a different encoder or something. I don't know. I'll figure it out someday, hopefully. But I appreciate you looking into that, Cars, in the meantime. And Wayne, thanks for a question here. He says, a bit late to comment about this, but there was a time I wanted to get the Fusion Sport with the twin turbo V6. You know, that was a car that had so much potential. I was really excited to get it as a press vehicle way back when, again, they were new and in the press fleet. But I don't know if it was the way they tuned the suspension or the steering or what, but that car just felt so heavy. And honestly, it like ruined the Fusion to me in some ways, because I love the regular turbo EcoBoost Fusion with the 2-liter. That is a great handling car, in my opinion, for, you know, that segment. I thought they were great driving cars. And then I was like, okay, well, now it has this fancy adaptive suspension. It's got a twin turbo V6, and obviously there's some extra weight there for sure. And I was anticipating that, with the all-wheel drive and stuff. But I was like, oh, this is going to be the best thing ever. And then it wasn't. And they just kind of made it a little too soft, even though it had the sport name. And I don't know, that car was just disappointing to me. Maybe with some mods or something, it would feel better. But that was a car that like should have been great, and to me wasn't. And so I don't know. It's another car I'd like to revisit, and maybe as things have changed here with weight and stuff, maybe it wouldn't feel so heavy these days. But at the time, it just and you can watch the video if you haven't seen it yet. But it was, I was excited about it, and then I was like, oh wait, like it was okay. I haven't gone back and watched the video, so I don't remember exactly what I said 7 years ago or whatever it was. But yeah, just I feel like it's a kind of a missed opportunity from Ford there, especially since Ford was kind of in their prime back then with, again, the sporty stuff. It seemed like a weird miss for them back then. But Immutable Do says, all-wheel drive helps you accelerate in the snow, not stop or handle. Yes, and I've said that so many times to so many people. And yeah, it's tires are so much more important. I mean, again, all-wheel drive helps you get up the hill, but that's it. And actually, it's funny because Beth will sometimes be scrolling on Facebook, and there's like mom groups and like neighborhood groups and things like that, and someone commented on there and said like they really would like the Honda Odyssey for their next minivan. They had one and they really liked it. They want the new one, but they're like, but it doesn't offer all-wheel drive, which is like we've talked about in past live streams. Honda needs to like get their act together. All-wheel drive Accord, all-wheel drive Odyssey. Like, what are you doing, Honda? But anyway, they wanted an all-wheel drive Odyssey that didn't exist, obviously. So they're like, what do I do? Like, do I get something else? They didn't want to go to a crossover. They wanted a minivan. And I told Beth to respond because I wasn't going to, go in there myself. But she basically just, wrote as an answer. I mean, people had various opinions and stuff, but that, if you're not interested in the current all-wheel drive options of Sienna and Pacifica, snow tires make a huge difference. Like, just get an Odyssey and put snow tires on it and you'll probably be fine around here, especially. I think we had last year, I could probably count on one hand the amount of actual snowfalls that weren't immediately melting or taken care of by a plow truck. And again, this is someone asking this that lives like in the suburbs of Pittsburgh, where they clean up the roads pretty fast. So, but again, it's just that same thing. That was another, like we were talking about earlier, like I must have all-wheel drive. What do I do? I want an Odyssey, but I can't have it because I need all-wheel drive. And it's like, it's not even the Subaru thing, but just the all-wheel drive thing is still so ingrained in people's heads. And it's like, that does help. No knock against all-wheel drive, but tires are everything. They really are in the winter. It's extra work. People don't want to have to swap tires, and it's a whole thing. And I get that. I did it for years, and I'm happy to not be doing it anymore because we just leave the all seasons on the Mach-E because, again, we hardly ever drive. We always have press cars anyway. So I quit. It wasn't worth it for the 500 miles we probably drive it over the course of the winter or something. But yeah, snow tires are really important if you live in a snowy place. Anyway, Goth Rocker says, Matt, the cars in Pennsylvania are the Subaru Outback, Crosstrek, Legacy. You're in Pittsburgh. I live just outside of Scranton. Subarus are everywhere. I do own one as well as my winter car. Yeah, man, they are great winter cars for sure. But it's just hilarious how people think that Subaru's got some magical unicorn powers in the snow that no one else has. And Austin says, to me, the modern golden age of affordable performance was Cobalt SS, Neon, SRT4, etc. I wish we would see cars like that make a return. Me too. Yeah. Any of those old things from the 20 or 2000s and even into the 2010s there. Bring them all back. I'm right there with you. This is why I'm nostalgic about the Prelude. I hope it turns out to be better than the rumors suggest. I'm excited to see, hopefully, Celica make a return at some point as well, like we've been hearing rumors about. Excuse me. Yeah, any of that stuff. I'm nostalgic for it all. And so, they're, again, the cars of our younger days. So we're going to love them probably a little bit more than the average person might. But yeah, I'd love to see all that stuff make a return someday. And let me see. Justin says, hey, man, hope your Sunday is going well. Do you have any idea on when you will be getting? Okay, so I answered the question. Hopefully you caught that, Justin. Civic hybrid press vehicle. I'm going to have it here actually this month. It was going to be later, but the reason why I'm getting a Civic hybrid in a few weeks for a press vehicle is because I was supposed to have an ND3 Miata a couple months ago, and it kept getting delayed because they needed it for another event. And then I was supposed to have it here this month, and then someone bumped the front bumper into a wall or something, so they weren't able to send it to me because they just handed it to the body shop. Now the body shop's taking a while to fix it, and so they were supposed to be sending it to me here in the middle of September, and it doesn't look like it's going to be done by then either, which seems insane because it was not like actual damage. It's like, I'm pretty sure most of it could have buffed out, but regardless, they're sending me a Civic Hybrid in its place instead. So I'm swapping that in, and now I'll probably have a Miata like maybe October if I'm lucky. We'll see. But anyway, I'm going to be the last person on earth to review the ND3 ND3 Miata. But anyway, Civic Hybrid is going to be coming instead. So I'm going to bump that one to the front of this long backlog that I have. So that's going to be coming out here in the middle of September, hopefully, for a Civic Hybrid review, because I know a lot of people are interested in my thoughts on that. So I will post that here in the next few weeks for sure. And thanks for letting me know you're interested in it as well. Let me see. Good success. Subaru and Audi both were Legends of Rally, and they used that to improve the all-wheel drive system for their road cars. They killed it. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think Subaru and Audi both do have really good all-wheel drive systems for sure. But it's funny because Audi, like, they do a lot of marketing with theirs as well, and I don't think they get the same love that Subaru gets, at least around here. Obviously, they're more expensive, but still. Let me see. Sorry, I missed a couple of the other supers here that came in. So TFIPW, thank you so much for joining the club here. I really appreciate that. I will keep an eye out for future questions here. And two, thanks so much for a super chat. Sorry to make you wait. He says, want to hear a dad joke? Absolutely. I'm always down for dad jokes. I was raised on dad jokes, so I am always up for dad jokes. And thank you too. I'll keep an eye out if you just want to, post a comment here. I'll keep an eye out for that. And Chad, thank you so much for a super chat. He says, Viper super electric car. I think we talked about this too recently, but Viper to me is just going to be tough. We will see if by some miracle Charger EV turns out to be a wild hit or even moderately successful. Maybe Stellantis will do it as a cash grab and just make it super expensive and see who will bite at a $300,000 electric supercar kind of thing, and just basically take the 1,000 horsepower from the Banshee that they're going to put in the Charger, and or at least supposedly, again, there's no confirmed, but I think they gave us like a power chart, but they got a roughly 1,000 horsepower setup. I think if you put that in something lighter than a Charger and smaller, and you make it double the price or something, maybe there's a market there for something like that. But again, you're really walking an uphill walk here. It's an uphill battle for sure with, Viper buyers. Love the V10, love the rawness, love the danger of that car. Would you get that with an EV, especially one that would have to be all-wheel drive if you want to make that much power? I don't know. I mean, again, we will see. Maybe if all of a sudden Mopar fans warm up to the electric Charger, I never say never, but I think Stellantis has bigger fish to fry right now than, trying to do some limited production high-end thing. I mean, they could use the money. So if it's easy to do on that skateboard, platform, maybe, but again, yeah, it's an EV. There's going to be a lot of haters and stuff too. So I don't know. Maybe it could make sense, but I'm not sure. Luke, thank you so much for a super chat as well. He says, I have not seen any Toyota Crown Signias in my trucking adventures. However, I'm seeing a lot of 25 Camrys. Yeah, I'm seeing a ton of those as well. And I have yet to see a Crown Signia either. I have not seen a single one since I reviewed them, back in April. And that's, again, we're obviously just pre-production for us. But yeah, I mean, I think they said they're supposed to go on sale in June. That's why the embargo was lifting in June. But I mean, I think they were saying like midsummer, and maybe they've kind of been a little bit behind on that. So, we're reaching the end of summer here. They should be showing up any day. I hadn't even talked to my brother-in-law who sells Toyotas. I don't think he's got a Crown Signia in yet either. And yeah, I've yet to see one. I also have not had any luck scheduling one as a press vehicle. I keep asking for it as a follow-up to, have it, for my week with kind of video, and nothing there yet either. So, I mean, that's also a small market car. I think they said they're going to do 15,000 this year or something of those. So they're not going to be common. It's going to be the same as the regular Crown. So there's going to be some of that too. So yeah, you're not going to see a whole lot of those for a while, if ever. Again, same deal as regular Crown. So yeah, it's a great car though. I'm sad they can't build them faster, because I think that actually has some potential. I mean, it's getting really tight with the way Toyota's got everything, right up against each other with pricing. But for someone who just wants something that's a wagon essentially, because that's what it is, I think it's a really cool option still. And two, thank you so much for another super chat. So I think this is the dad joke. Hopefully, he says, "Did you know Fox News doesn't even have news about foxes? Neither does BBC News." That's a good one. Freaking clickbait back in the basement. I appreciate that too. Thanks for making us laugh here in the live streams and for stopping by. That is a good one. I see we got some other laughs here for that, so I appreciate that. And thanks. I saw Fox News. I thought we were gonna get political, and then it just turned into a good old joke. So thank you. Appreciate that too. And I hope you have a great week here. And Michelle, thank you so much for a super chat as well. He says, "Hey Matt, wanted to share. I bought my first new car yesterday, a 2024 Jetta SE. Loving it so far. Passat will be my brother's once he gets his license." That's awesome. Congrats on the new car, and awesome too that you're handing down your car to him, so he's able to have some wheels there and have his own freedom and transportation there. That's awesome. So that's great of you, and I hope you like the new Jetta there. That's awesome. I'm curious, as far as your decision there, I'm guessing the deal was just great going for the 24 versus the 25. But 24s are still great. I mean, it's still the same car, so you're not probably missing out on a whole lot aside from the new bumper and stuff. But yeah, that's awesome. Hope you enjoy it. And I'm curious if you went for the manual or the auto. I mean, either one is obviously fine, but I think hopefully there's a few more of those manuals out there before that drops off here with the 25s. But glad you're able to grab one, and hopefully, you got a great deal. And congrats. It's always fun getting a new car and that new car smell, and just the excitement of learning, a new vehicle and all that is great. So that's awesome. Huge congrats. And thanks for stopping by. And thank you again for the super chat as well. Let me see, getting back to the other member questions here. So I see we're coming up. Got about another 11 minutes here. I'm sure I'll probably go over a little bit here, but I definitely want to make sure I get caught up on all the member questions. So, Danny says, my good friends, family friends have had 4 Subarus, all were Foresters, and the first 2 were both 09s. One was red, nicknamed Ruby the Subi. That's a good one. And a blue, then they got a 18 Forester XT, and now a 23 Forester Touring. Nice. Sounds like they stick to it. And I guess like we were talking about earlier, people like to stick with the Subarus. And I'm not sure if they cross-shopped or not, but happy that they're happy with them. I've actually been seeing a lot of the 25 starting to pop up pretty quickly. That was funny. I almost had to do a double take, because yesterday I was driving and there's just one strip of road. I mean, literally within 30 seconds of each other, there was this new cement gray color they have for the new Forester. One of those drove by with a temp tag on the back. Looked like they just had bought it, brand new, shiny, and I just picked it up. There's a Subaru dealer like 5 minutes away from where I was seeing these. Just drove by. Cool, there's a 25 Forester. Even though I don't love the way they look still, I'm like, hey, look, they're starting to pop up on the roads. It's always interesting to see. And then literally like 15 seconds later, maybe 30 seconds, just a little ways down the road, another identical Forester, like same trim, same color, everything, temp tag on the back. It's like they're just shipping them out. Maybe they bought 2 of them in the same color just for kicks or something, and they're like in the same family or something, because surely they must know each other or something, because they were like back-to-back brand new Foresters, identical color and trim. It's just kind of funny. And it's like, you got gray. I mean, gray's fine, but it's like Subaru actually has some nice colors, and but anyway, I'm starting to see the new ones pop up some more here. And let me see. So Chad, thank you so much for another super chat. He says, Kia is ahead of the American manufacturers as far as making electric cars feel like muscle cars. Come on, Ford and Chevy. I agree. And hopefully it sounds like with the new refreshed 2024 Mach-E GTs, it sounds like they got the punchier rear motor. So I'm hoping that kind of fixes the front bias power that the GT Mach-E has currently, because it just felt like a hot hatch more than a Mustang. So maybe if it's a little more rear bias, it'll actually justify its badge a little bit better now in the future. And Chevy, we'll see what they do with Blazer SS, if that turns out to be, a little bit more muscly, with a lively back end and that. Regular Blazer, it handles great. It's just, obviously not the kind of muscle you're looking for from a, muscle car. So hopefully the SS at least fixes that component. But Yeah, the rear bias is really key, and I think that's one of the things I love about the Ioniq 5N is you can have that slider. I mean, Kia even with the EV6 GT is kind of rear biased and feels great too, but Ioniq 5N, I mean, that thing's still, you can have it go fully rear wheel drive, do all the hooning you want, and man, yeah, that car is still so magical. I mean, I am. What has it been? 2 months since I probably reviewed that now at this point, and I'm still thinking about that car. That's how you know it's a good one when it sticks with you like that. It's a lot of cars, I'll be like, oh, that was a nice week, and I forget about it, and it's whatever. But there's some of them when they stick with me like that, it's like, there's something to that, it's a good car. But let me see. Other member questions here. All right. Austin says, hey, Matt, I hear the Volkswagen ID Buzz is going to start at 61,545. Do you think they're pricing themselves out of the market? So I think there's kind of two sides of the coin here for that pricing. I did see that. I chose not to talk about it in the weekly update because I don't usually talk about pricing stuff unless it's something super relevant to most of you, whether, it's like Mustang pricing or something. But with ID Buzz, yeah, 61.5 is high. Now, keep in mind, again, it's going to be eligible for the lease deals, assuming the tax credit continues to stick around, which is a big if, especially since that vehicle is not going to really be showing up till, election time or maybe even after. But if that credit stands, leasing is going to be the way to go for that, just like any other EV right now. You don't buy them, you lease them. And so, there's that. So 61.5, call it 55 or so, after the leasing, and, figure out what the residuals are. I don't know, what that will, shake out to be. But from a leasing standpoint, look at it as a 55 grand car to start. Again, still a price premium for sure. And more expensive than a regular van or anything. But I think the key context here is Kia EV9, which is currently the only other electric three-row thing. I would argue the Buzz probably has a little more, pun intended, buzz to it. From a marketing standpoint, people are just excited about it, and especially once they start showing up on roads and selling themselves, I guess in that way, you're going to see a lot of hype, I think, for that. And I think that will help those to sell better than the EV9, which right now you can easily get like at least 10 grand off of an EV9. Like they are giving them away. And I actually just saw one out in the wild today, and I haven't seen any out in the wild until today. But there's huge discounts on EV9, and that is priced the same basically. I mean, there are lower versions, but get the nicer ones and get the all-wheel drive and stuff. You're kind of high. I think the one that I had was like almost 70 grand. I think it's like 67 or 68 whenever I spent a week with one a few months back. Excuse me. So, I mean, and you can argue as far as whether the Kia is nicer inside than the Volkswagen will be and stuff like that. But, I think the Kia also has a little more power. But regardless, like they're kind of in that. I think that's probably what they were using for their gauge as far as where they price it, kind of. So, I can't fault them, but, will you see them knocking 10 grand off like Kia's doing? Especially in this, market right now where, again, people are really price sensitive for EVs and we've gotten rid of most of the early adopters. I think, again, because it's the return of the bus finally, you will have the early adopter kind of thing come back to help out Buzz in the early months and maybe even for the first year or so. But once all the people who are like, oh, I got to have a new Volkswagen bus, once those people are out of the way, you're going to see some healthy discounts, I think, to get it to a more attractive price point. And maybe that's their strategy. Maybe they will lower the price in later years, or maybe they just, will rely on discounting. Volkswagen is no stranger to discounting and throwing cash on the hood. They're very generous with discounts typically in general at Volkswagen these days. So, yeah, that's yes, especially from a reviewer standpoint, I have to judge things based on MSRP because how much of a discount you get is going to come down to your negotiating skills, how many of them are around you, and, a wide variety of factors. But long answer, apologies. But just for me to say, yes, that's the price. Very few people will pay that price. You're going to pay, everyone's going to pay less. You're going to get incentives potentially. and just it's discounts. So it's I don't think it's an issue aside from the early adopters who will probably still happily pay 70 grand for them anyway. There might even be markups on some of them, out of the gate, which would be insane to think about these days with the current market, especially for EVs. But I wouldn't put it past the greedy dealers to, try and do that. So, I mean, guarantee you there'll be people trying to get over sticker for those, and some person that has more money than than brains will happily pay it, and that's fine. But I think they're gonna be discounted is my kind of consensus right now. Danny says as far as the parallel parking, Danny's mom still hates parallel parking. She's told me she's not done it since her driving test in the 90s. Yeah, I think that's most people, unless you live again in cities or work in cities pretty regularly. And Dorian says, any opinion on the Audi A4 wagon? They're cool. I've always liked the all-roads and stuff. Like any German vehicle, get it with an extended warranty if you're buying a used one, because they can be problematic later in life. But other than that, it's cool they offer it. I'm happy that they do. I wish we got the regular wagons here, but the all-road's not a bad, compromise, I suppose. And so, I've never reviewed one, but I've spent plenty of time in the all-roads in the past. And I think they're a cool combo there. I actually saw someone, I think it was last year at the airport, that took an all-road and then lowered it to regular non-all-road height and painted the body cladding, got rid of all the rugged crap, and basically made their own A4 wagon. And I was like, kudos to you. That was probably fairly time and labor and money intensive, but they made it themselves. I'm like, that's a great way to work around it. And that was really cool to see. Timothy says rear mirrors and cameras aren't required. Think of vans, etc. Maybe you're talking about for parallel parking tests or something. I'm not sure, because right now I believe it was 2015 is when backup cameras were mandated here in the States, at least. So every vehicle does have to have one here. Goth Rocker says, Matt, Polestar did away with the rear window to save weight, which I still think is stupid. Yeah, anyone talking about saving weight in an EV, even in a supercar, come on, you're wasting your time. If you're worried about weight, drop a few batteries out of the cell or something. I will never understand any kind of lightweighting measures for an EV. I mean, yes, you want to try and save a few pounds here or there, I suppose, if you think it's going to help, but you're already off the deep end with all these EVs. Just leave it be and, let it be hey, it's heavy, and just own it, I mean, really, if it's truly because of a weight thing, though, a rear window, how much does that piece of glass weigh versus plastic? Yes, the glass is heavier, but how much heavier? It's enough that, it's the weight savings will be negated by picking up a few groceries on your way home from work. I mean, what's the point? It just seems stupid if that's truly the reason. I see you saying you agree about it's heavy. That's really strange. Those are the types of things I would love to be a fly on the wall in the boardroom that approved that. I'm like, yep, this is a good idea. Let's save ourselves 5 pounds. Good choice, everyone. And also make it more complex with having extra camera and all that. Anyway, let me see. Austin says Doug actually likes the new WX. Nice. And Goth Rocker says, Matt, speaking of Volvo, I never owned one. Always wanted to try one, but I went with a friend to test drive a Volvo S60 Recharge. That car is really fast and nice, plus all-wheel drive, good handling. Yeah, I always love those. I've ranted and raved about it last fall, and whenever I had one to review, they're great. They just don't have a ton of space on the inside. Not a lot of storage space either. Infotainment's a little dodgy at times. There's some imperfections. If those imperfections don't bother you, absolutely, it's fantastic. Strong electric motors, lots of range, good styling still, even all these years later. Super safe, obviously. I love the S60. I always liked it. Every review you can see of me driving an S60, I've always had a good time. It just, again, kind of falls short in some of the other areas, but not, just it comes down to your personality, really. And we are at the 2-hour mark, so I'm going to try and get through all the member questions here as quickly as I can. And we can go from there, and I will be back next week. But Austin says, if I was forced to choose between Civic SI and WX, I'd go WX. Definitely better value, unless the motor grenades. Yeah, I mean, from again the stuff you get for your money, WRX is definitely the better, stuff per dollar. I'd argue though, the SI has a better shifter, better steering, better throttle response, nicer interior. Um, there's so it's just you need the extra 70 horsepower. A lot of people, if you're an enthusiast, absolutely yes, I would like the extra 70 horsepower. Go enjoy the WRX in good health. Personally, I don't know. I'd probably actually go Civic SI because I love the driving experience of it all, the way it's packaged together. I also like auto rev matching, which again might be hearsay as an enthusiast, but you don't get that in the WRX. So, at least again, I'd probably have to learn it better, but it is a press vehicle, only getting it for a week. I'm never super smooth with rev matching downshifts and things like that. Versus SI, I get in and I have a great time and it's perfectly slick and smooth and a little bit of an easier learning curve there. But yeah, so I don't know. SIs are great. I'm hoping to try out the slight little refresh they did here for 25 at some point here, maybe this fall, if they can get them out quick enough. But Good Stick says, why does the Subaru Crosstrek count as a subcompact, but the Subaru Impreza counts as a compact, which is the size up? Same with HRV, Civic, Hyundai Venue as a true subcompact. I think it just comes down to the classifications are different for SUVs than it is for sedans. I think that's it. Because, I mean, with the SUVs and the crossovers, it's just like they all lost kind of any relevancy with the segment name, at least. Especially once we got into the mid-size. There's like mid-size 2-row and then mid-size 3-row, but you can't call it a full-size because then that's the truck stuff. And there's this weird in between. And so that's why it's always just like, well, there's mid-size 3-row and then regular mid-size. And those are kind of two very separate things for most people, unless you're talking to Mazda, in which case they say, oh, it's the same. We just throw the rear seat out in the CX-70. But anyway, that's it's kind of just the way they kind of got all goofy with that, because it started with it making sense back in the 90s or whatever, and then just kind of went out the window after that. But it's just because it's also they also wanted to cram a lot of vehicles into that compact segment, so they had to find ways to clear out space, as far as doing the subcompact thing, because otherwise you'd have multiple compact crossovers and they didn't want to have too much overlap, I guess. So they classified them differently to kind of solve that in a way. And let me see. Luke says, sorry for the late check-in. Just finished talking to a friend who lives far away. Awesome. Glad you're able to chat with a friend. That's always a good use of time. And the great thing about these live streams is you can watch them after the fact. You don't have to catch them live. So it's happy to have everyone, interacting, but you can always catch these if, after the fact, if they don't fit with what, is going on in your life. There's other things for sure. So it's all good if anyone ever has to miss these. Totally understand it. Nathaniel says, I hate Toyota and all sushi brands, but all-wheel drive on the Corolla hybrid makes it number one for a lot of people. I was amazed when I found out they had a Corolla hybrid all-wheel drive. Yeah, it's a great package. It makes a lot of sense, and especially again, you live in these snowy areas. That could be all the deciding you need to do. Is it's like that one has all-wheel drive, that one doesn't. End of story. And let me see. B. Mitchell says, when I took my first driver's test, it was in my Mazda 1976 Ford Granada and failed the parallel parking. Redid it in the family's 1972 International Travail and passed with flying colors. Nice. I don't even know what that vehicle is. That's probably why I butchered the pronunciation of the name, but that's impressive. I'm assuming that's a larger vehicle, so that's cool. And kudos to you for passing it. I passed the first go around, but my sister, I think, had to do it twice, if I remember correctly. Parallel parking stuff. And Danny says when the 4 Foresters, the 18 Forester XT is the dad's car, and the 23 is the touring. Is mom's dad gets a new car when their kids about my age starts driving, gets 18 Forester. Nice. So they keep them in the family. That's cool. Austin says, I think James was hungover and jet lagged. Gotcha. He didn't seem either of those things on the Smoking Tire podcast. So maybe he drank a little bit too much, because I think he said in the podcast he was immediately going to Jay's garage after talking with Matt Farah. So, but he, like Matt and them, were drinking more of the gin that James is promoting here. But I think James was like, no, I can't have any more because I gotta, keep doing more stuff today. So he kind of withheld there, but I guess maybe he was still not feeling the best or something. I don't know. But Mike says, do you think it would have been cool if Ford came out with a Corvette competitor? Ford GT is not close, or is it very hard to do what GM did price-wise for the C8? I think it's really hard to do. Yeah, I think that's a lot of it. Obviously Ford has the V8. They have the size that they could do something like that. I would love to see. I mean, that's kind of what Thunderbird originally was supposed to be back in the day, right? Thunderbird was a Corvette competitor in the 50s. It kind of went in a different direction as time went on, but that was the original intent. And they could bring it back to that original intention and do it as a legit, fierce, aggressive thing. I think Thunderbird would totally still fit with that kind of a ethos and mentality. I mean, it's a nice Halo product. I think Ford is just content with Mustang being their Halo, though. I think there's not a whole lot to be gained, honestly. I think especially GM Corvette is very important because Corvette has always been consistently around. Camaro has came and went. The other performance brands that are now even defunct, they had stuff that came and went. Corvette is the one GM thing that has never missed a beat since the 50s. I don't think they skipped a year unless I'm misremembering, but that's always been there for them. So I feel like Corvette is almost more like the Mustang of the GM world, as far as just being their mainstay and kind of the thing that I think they're most famous for. So sure, Ford could kind of do something like that, but I mean, it seems like Ford again is just interested in the high dollar stuff. If they're going to do high performance stuff, like you said, Ford GT, even like Mustang GTD. I mean, they can't even bother to make a high performance Mustang without it being $250,000 now. So it's like, yeah, I just think they don't have the will. Maybe they have the means, but again, Ford's another company right now that they're terrified about, the Chinese electric competition and stuff, and they're rushing to get these, competitive $25,000 EVs out and stuff. I think that's, I just think it's the last thing on Ford's mind. I mean, I'm sure there's probably a few engineers that have it in their pet projects of things they'd love to do someday, but I just don't. Yeah, I just think there's no world where that happens. It could maybe be if I mean, we know Corvette's going to be gas powered still for C9. If for C10, again, at this point, we're talking at least another 15 years from now, maybe in that far off distant future where everything is probably mostly electric at that point. Maybe if they don't want to mess with Mustang and they want to keep that as the gas power thing, maybe you see Thunderbird be the electric thing. That's a two-door or a sports car or something like that to kind of protect Mustang in a way. But I mean, obviously they're not worried about protecting the Mustang because we have Mach-E, so they don't really mind trampling on the name. But I just wonder if maybe there's something there. I don't know. That's the best I can come up with, but I don't think Chevy's really or Ford's really worried about it, honestly. And let me see here. All right, so we can skip over. We already covered all the live stream discussions here, so we'll get caught up on member questions a little bit quicker that way. So let me see, trying to find my spot here. And I think we're actually getting pretty close here. Linda says Stang Mode does builds. I'm no longer watching him. Too many giveaways also. Yeah, giveaways are definitely something I'm not interested in doing for sure. I know that's a big, nice cash grab for a lot of these guys, but not something I'm interested in doing. B. Mitchell says, better yet, if you have some time before or after a media drive and out-of-town junkyard tour, that would be cool. The problem with traveling for media drives, whether it's meeting up with fans or meeting up with other people that want me to review their cars in that city or wherever I'm at. The problem is I don't have transportation typically. I mean, I could Uber places if I really wanted to, but I mean, these days it's so expensive. Like, honestly, a video would probably make less than the Uber ride would cost to go there and back. But, that's the thing with media drives. Like, whenever I land at the airport, I have a greeter sitting there holding my name or holding up the badge for whatever car company I'm there for. They literally escort me into some SUV. They shuttle me to the airport or to the hotel. We have all the meals either on site or they transport us to the meals and back. The only time I am driving myself is in their car, and typically there's a pretty short leash. We're either going on their predetermined route or they let us drive wherever we want. But my time is so tight that I have to get my filming done. I'm focusing on filming the car. I can't take a fun detour typically or ever, honestly. Some people can if they, again, do less filming than I do, or they're writers that can just drive around and be like, let me take a few notes and then go back and work on the story a couple weeks later. I'm so jealous of print journalists. They can actually enjoy these things and like look around and all that, but I'm just like, filming, and then I barely have time to even do that. But so that's the thing, is I don't have transportation, so I'd have to then so after the drive is done, then again we have dinner or whatever, then they shuttle me to the airport the next morning or later that day or whatever, and again I go on a plane, and then the next time I drive is driving my own car home from the airport. So it's a very isolated kind of setup for those. So there's it's not like I'm just like, hey, I got a few days to kill, let me just mess around in some new place. It'd be fun. I'd love to. And some people do extend media drives sometimes if it works out with a family vacation. They can line it up at the same time or something like that. But it's nothing that I've ever done. It's always been in and out, get it done quick, and barely have time to do anything else. And by the way, B. Mitchell, I know we talked last week, so I was in Minneapolis for the Chevy Equinox thing that I was doing this past week. And Minneapolis is great. It's my first time actually hanging out around there, checking it out. And drivers are more aggressive than I thought they would be. That was the one thing that took me by surprise, at least in like downtown Minneapolis and stuff. It was like kind of like anyone's familiar with like DC drivers, and not quite as bad as like New York drivers from an aggression standpoint, but like Minneapolis drivers, at least the ones I came across, they were not messing around. I mean, I can appreciate assertiveness, but there is some wild driving I was seeing when I was driving around. But I love it. I mean, the lakes we were driving past on that were beautiful. The city is really nice. And I really like Minneapolis. But let me see. Austin says, feature my 500 Abarth as car of the week. Still need to send in pics. Absolutely. I'd love to feature it. Definitely send me some pictures. I'll be happy to give it a little feature there. Brian says he saw a Challenger and Charger this week. Nice. I see plenty of those on the daily pretty much still. Very big hits around here. Austin says C30 will forever be the Twilight car to me, though. I don't remember that one in Twilight. That's funny. I don't know, because I think I've seen most of those back when they were all the rage. But I just remember like the 911 Turbo and stuff in that movie. And one of them, I don't remember. Anyway, B. Mitchell says, speaking of junkyards, one of my buddies just bought 2 vintage Datsun pickups out of very rural Montana for under $2,000 for both combined, both rust free, and the 72 runs. Wow, that sounds like a great deal. CTFI says, did someone say Mirage? You're right, we did. But yeah, congrats to your friend. That's awesome. And I appreciate Linda says do what's best for you in regards to earlier. And I appreciate that. Slam Sedan says 300ZX over 3000 GT. That might be an unpopular opinion. I don't know. I love 300ZXs. They're cool too, but I don't know. I think I'd have to be on the 3000 GT side. Maybe my opinion is unpopular. I don't know, but I'd be curious to see what you guys think too. But Linda says lots of people do live streams on Facebook. Yeah, I just don't bother investing in other platforms because, really my whole goal is always about driving traffic to the YouTube channel and boosting the YouTube channel, because that's the thing that, is kind of lagging and, isn't growing as much as it used to. And I got to focus all my attention on the YouTube thing, because I think that's just like the most important platform. And also, I mean, from Facebook's, Facebook pays terribly. I mean, the live super chats and things like that obviously would, that money, most of that would go, to me, but ad rates and stuff are terrible. And that's the nice thing about these lives is that after, these are live, they turn into regular videos you can watch after the fact. And those do earn, a few bucks from the ad revenue. So there's a little bit of extra little incentive there to keeping it on YouTube as well. In addition to, again, the memberships, which is all integrated. Everything's just so nicely integrated. That's why I've never bothered with other platforms. I know lots of people, are on Twitch and all this stuff. And it's just, again, like going off of YouTube kind of to me would just distract from my goal of supporting the channel. And again, everyone seems to be right here instead of trying to find new people on something else, so that would certainly help grow the awareness of the brand, and I can appreciate it from that standpoint. And that's definitely a good idea, Linda. But again, it's something I don't want to invest time in since I have so little of that time. But Joel says, "Hey man, I saw a really clean Jag XK yesterday at Walmart. Nice. I've saw an XK recently as well too. They're always fun to see, and I'm always commending the owners that have kept them going." And B Mitchell says, "Mitsubishi 3000 has a thing on the collector car scene. Been a thing on the collector car scene for a while. The badge engineered Dodge Stealth is the sleeper that nobody notices and can be a good buy if in good condition." Thanks for the tip. That makes a lot of sense too. And yeah, stealths were super cool too with their styling, and again, all the same mechanicals really. Zachary says, "Shout out to Babs, my wife, who has filled in for me as speedy moderator tonight. Thanks again to Linda for gifting her a membership." Well, thank you, Babs, for the help. I really appreciate it. Sorry that Steven needs to be a thing, but again, hopefully Richard Simmons finds more purpose to his life in the future to do something more productive with his time, or join us in the conversation instead. Yeah, thank you so much, Babs, and Zachary as well for that. I really appreciate it. And Zachary, you tagged her here, but I don't. It's not coming up as like a clickable thing. But if she would like to just post a quick little comment or whatever, I can then make her a moderator so she can do it from her own account if that works better for her, if she does want to pitch in the future. Again, no obligation or need to, but if that would be easier than going through your account, absolutely, I will add her as a moderator as well. B Mitchell says, "Someone will win a Darwin Award with the Cybertruck this winter at Line of the Night." I'm glad you appreciate that. It'll happen. I know it. And TFI says, "I'm on a brand account, so I can't turn on gifting." Gotcha. Well, happy to be able to join the club here, though, and thanks so much for your support. Let me see. Steven says, "As a car reviewer, what stands out as the differences in pre-COVID and post-COVID?" I think pricing. Pricing is really the biggest thing, that's it's just radically changed. I mean, 2022, we had the giant spike in inflation, and kind of obviously has slowed down since then, but that just has driven things up, and they're not reversing. We're not having negative inflation, I guess deflation. So we're just, the higher prices are here to stay. And even though hopefully some people's wages at least have risen, to kind of keep up or try to keep up with these new adjusted prices, a lot of people are just going to take a long time to adjust to this. The same way, people still to this day complain about, "Oh, I remember when gas was $1 a gallon or 10 cents a gallon," or, whatever, pick your era of people being nostalgic about, "Wow, I remember when my parents paid $25,000 for their house," or "I remember when my car was $5,000. There's always an adjustment period of like, things used to be this much, and then inflation happened, things, did their usual things. Inflation is a natural thing in the market, and, people take time to readjust to those new prices. So I think, I see a lot of comments about people being upset about pricing, and a lot of it is valid because in a lot of, jobs, wages are not keeping up with that inflation. And so there's a real problem there. It's not just some imaginary, psychological thing. It's a legitimate issue. But, hopefully eventually wages will do something to try and compensate for the higher prices for, most people. And hopefully that'll help that adjustment period. But really, to me, that's the biggest thing. And I've noticed it as well. It's crazy how it's like, man, like, I remember when Mustangs were cheaper and all these other things, and getting adjusted at these higher prices, it's hard for me as well. But that's why context is so important. It's like, well, this is what everyone else is charging, and then you have to run through the inflation calculator and be like, well, really, this is the same money as it was in 2019 or whatever, and those types of things are an adjustment. But that's really it. I don't think there's anything else between pre and post COVID that has been a difference that I can think of off the top of my head. That's a great question, though. Thanks for asking, Stephen. TFI said, "Long overdue, felt bad getting bumped ahead of member questions." Yeah, no, I appreciate the support for sure. But the supers are also a great way to show support too. So never feel bad about jumping ahead with a super chat too, if that's what works better for some people. I know subscriptions aren't for everyone. Joe says, what's your favorite car mod that you've had on your car? I think it's got to be an exhaust. It's always a good, extra bit of adrenaline there, getting the extra sound out of, the cars in the past. So that's always been, I think, the favorite for sure. Lots of other fun stuff. I think some of the funnier ones, like the blow-off valve I had on my Legacy GT back in the day, was fun and appropriate for a college student in the late 2000s. But not something I'd probably do these days, but a fun mod back then for sure too. Ben says, Hey Matt, enjoyed your review on the Nautilus. Do you think Lincoln is leaving any cash on the table by not offering a proper sedan? Absolutely. And Rich Goth Rocker will totally agree with you on that one there. But yeah, and I'd love to see them come back with it. They have Lincoln sedans in China where people still buy sedans in decent numbers. I'd love to see it make a return here too. We will see, if Lincoln can ever justify it, especially if Ford has this change of heart and they want to start doing more stuff. But we'll see. And sorry, I missed the other supers here from Chad. Again, just not paying attention, I guess, when YouTube's been giving me the notifications on those. But Chad, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, do you think Lucid is the downfall of Tesla? Lucid likes to think so. I think there was an interview this past week they did with the head of Lucid at Monterey, and he said he thinks like there where Tesla was at the same kind of point. He thinks they're kind of ahead from a development standpoint. They're growing and learning faster than Tesla did. And I think that Lucid, if they can get, again, this is a big if, because the problem with Lucid is everything is still so expensive for them, So I think Lucid could be the downfall of Tesla in 10 years. Maybe 5 if they really get products out quickly. But I mean, they need, the Gravity obviously is hopefully coming, I think, by the end of this year. Gravity, they need to have an affordable Model 3 competitor and then a Model Y competitor after that, and then maybe a truck. I mean, they have a lot of product to get through before you could even say they're a strong threat to Tesla, in my opinion. But absolutely, I think if Lucid was already at that place, I think that this is a ripe market for a Tesla competitor to really put them under, because with how polarizing they're becoming because of Elon and stuff, it's prime time again for people to scoop in and get all those people who are like, typically EV buyers are, a certain demographic, and then Elon basically made them all mad and they want to go somewhere else. And so, this is why I think GM sees huge opportunities, and every other company does basically as well, because they're scooping up all these Tesla defectors left and right. And it's a shame that Lucid's not in a position to scoop all those up. Aside from right now, I think Lucid can only scoop up Model S, and then with Gravity, Model X, buyers. That's it. I think Rivion's honestly better positioned than Tesla to be the downfall of Tesla. Obviously, again, Rivian has no sedans. But I don't think, if they can actually get out the affordable stuff with the R3 and the R2 as a Model Y competitor, R3 kind of say as a Model 3 competitor in a way, again, but that's still not till 2026. So I would say Rivian could really bring the heat to Tesla in 2026 if they can truly ramp up production of all those things to a near Tesla level. I think that Rivian is actually the better positioned one in the near term. In the 2030s, I could see Lucid being that for sure, though. And I don't, with Tesla's current direction, I don't see a bright future for them, honestly, unfortunately. I wish I could say, I think they were a great pioneer, but if they just keep going in this direction, I don't think it's going to do them any favors. And Chad, thank you for another super chat. He says, my husband Jordan and I love watching all of your content. Wishing you luck from OG WX fans. I really appreciate that, Chad. Thank you so much. And thanks, for the support and all the supers and everything tonight. It really means a lot. And I hope you guys have a great week. Last few questions here. Cam Jump says, would you take a 2017 Accord V6 over a Mazda 6 Turbo? Well, see, Mazda 6 Turbo, I think that came with all-wheel drive, right? And it's just a better way of deploying the power versus Accord V6, kind of just like wheel spin city a little bit. And it's also that's the last year of the old gen, which the interior wasn't as good and all that. So actually, I think I'd take the Mazda 6 Turbo over that prior generation Accord. If we're talking 2018 and stuff, you have the nicer interior, but then you still can have no limited slip diff in the front. And I believe Mazda 6 Turbo again was only all-wheel drive, if I remember correctly, so it'd be better putting the power down. Mazda 6 is a really underappreciated car too. I think it gets no love at all. And I think again with turbo and stuff, had some promise. I really liked it when I spent a week with one again many years ago. It's another car I wouldn't mind revisiting, like a modded one, to see what they are like with a few mods, to kind of make them a little sportier. But I think they're great. Another very slept on car. Dorian says, my Mini John Cooper works so badly, needs an LSD. Speaking of those those LSDs, yeah, they are nice things to have for sure. He says, I really hate front wheel drive now. My MX-5 RF and my 718T and BRZ are so enjoyable to drive. I bet. And all, yeah, I have the LSDs there to help you out. So I'm sure there's someone who swaps them into minis if you don't mind spending the cash to fix the mini there. I think that definitely would be a nice little upgrade for sure. And B. Mitchell says international travel all was an IHC competitor to Suburban. Cool. I appreciate the new knowledge. I learned about a new car tonight. That's awesome. And Six Lick says Matt Farah drinks a ton on his podcast. I remember when Sung Kang went on, he was as red as a tomato. Nice. I haven't seen that one. I should watch that one too, because I really enjoyed the one with James May. I don't regularly watch Matt Farah's podcast, even though actually I think Matt Farah is actually pretty cool. But yeah, just I don't always listen to a lot of podcasts, but I should check out the one with Sung Kang, because Sung Kang is super cool. One of the other I guess car celebrities that I have met, Sung Kang, and he is super nice, super down to earth. Met him at SEMA back in, I think it was 2016 or 2017. I got to actually chat with him for a little bit because he was kind of in the same sponsor thing we were in, and super cool guy. Yeah, absolutely adore Sung Kang as well. So I'll have to check out that podcast. Thanks for the tip. Hyper Shadow says, good night, all peoples. Thanks for the stream, Matalinius. I appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by. B. Mitchell says, 1983 was the only year there wasn't a regular production Corvette, as they did pre-production C4s and found they weren't ready for prime time until 84. See, I knew you'd probably be the one to answer that and give us some good insight there. So thank you for the little history there, B. Mitchell, and I appreciate it. And I see Brian also stepping in with that as well. And okay, there's Babs. All right, let me just go ahead and make you a mod there as well. And let me see. Yep, I think that's it. And yeah, so you should be a moderator now, Babs. Thank you again so much for helping out here tonight. And let me see. Cam Jim says Mazda 6 Turbo is front wheel drive only. Really? Okay. Huh. I could have sworn they're all wheel drive. All right. Well, in that case, yeah, because I don't think it had an LSD, right? So it might be a little bit of a mess too. I don't know. I guess I reviewed the one I reviewed in the summer, so maybe the traction wasn't an issue. But I feel like it was less of an issue in that than it was in even the 2.0T Turbo Accord, where that thing was just wheel spinning everywhere and torque steering and stuff. I don't know. Cool. Well, yeah, another thing that I guess I relearned tonight, because surely I knew that at some point and then somehow forgot. So thanks for the info, Cam Jam. And Danny says, sorry for the late question, but someone on YouTube, Toyota Century V12 swapped, then twin turboed the V12, then stuffed it into an 09 STI. It still sounds awesomely cool. Wow. That is quite the journey for that motor, and that is sweet. I'll have to check that out. Thanks for the tip on that. That's wild, I'm sure. Six says Sun Kang has the new podcast with Amelia Hartford, which is pretty cool as well. It's called Car Stories, I think. Nice. I'll have to check that out. Amelia's another one that I've had the good fortune of meeting actually a couple of times. She's also super nice. Last time I think I saw her was actually on the Corvette C8 launch. She was on that media drive, actually probably one of the last ones she's done, because I don't think she really does too many of those anymore, but she was on that, and I had met her I think one or two other times in the past for maybe as a Toyota event or something, but she came right up and gave me a hug and said, oh hey, how's it going, and like super friendly. I'm like, I didn't even expect her to remember me, and she was just really nice. So Amelia seems super down to earth, and I'm so happy she's been in the movie now with Gran Turismo and had all this success, and I'm so happy for her as she is like becoming a legitimate like real celebrity, not just like a car celebrity, but like hopefully she'll have a great acting career, and I wish her all the best. She's super super nice. So that's cool they teamed up on a podcast. I'll have to check that out. Thanks for another tip, man. I am getting so many great tips tonight, and the great idea from Austin about live streaming a junkyard walk, that sounds great too. So and thanks, Danny says the V12 STI channel is called John Prolux. All right, sweet. Thank you. I appreciate that. And yeah, so we will call it quits here. I think this might be the longest live stream. We're 2.5 hours out for this one, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it. It's like we had a good amount of watchers here. It's right to the very end. So thank you all so much for joining in here. Hope you enjoyed this, and have a great week here coming up. And yeah, stay tuned for the Equinox review here this week, as well as some other stuff. I'll be doing another Mazda CX-70 video, the plug-in hybrid, and doing another video here towards the end of the week as well. And I will try and work in a live walk through the junkyard and some of the other stuff here as well. But thank you all for a great live. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care, and again, once again, have a great week.